Shut up and sit down.
Well, for the first time on HJBC, welcome to the Hockenheimring. A new track on iRacing, and also we bring a new car, the McLaren 570S GT4. It slots nicely in with the existing lineup of GT4 cars, where it's going to be battling today against the BMW M4 and the Porsche 718 Cayman. But the big brother to those GT machines is GT3, and they're also racing today with some relatively recent additions to the iRacing service in the Lamborghini Huracan, the BMW M4 GT3 prototype. So fresh, it's not racing in the real world yet. What a treat that is for us. And also the Audi R8 joining them as well, for what's going to be a team/solo endurance challenge today. For 2.5 hours, some teams are going to race with just one driver. Others are 2 driver pairings for this event. A lot of racing ahead of us. They are getting ready to go qualifying right now. I'm David Haynes. I've got Devin Peters with me, as is common of late on HJBC, and Michael Derby producing our great coverage. Devin, a new track, that's brand new for everyone, and quite a few drivers going for that new McLaren as well.
Yeah, and with the new track, there's also been some sort of last-minute modifications, according to iRacing. So some new off-track areas and all kinds of new factors for these guys to consider as they try and find their way around here today.
Yeah, for sure. Within track limits is where you've absolutely got to keep it for qualifying right now. Our drivers get 4 laps if they need them, and if they can squeeze them in as well, that actually might be a bit of a challenge. No, I think everyone, if they left the pit lane at the start of qualifying, is going to get their 4 in. So we've talked about the 6 different vehicles we have for this race today across 2 classes. As always, many of our good friends from Team Hugh Jass driving today, but also, anyone from across the iRacing community, and the ones that stand out to me, the teams that have got a couple cars that they've brought today, a couple drivers who are going to be racing together and against their teammates. We've got a few cars from AOD Racing. We've got a couple from Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing. I think we've got 2 from Genesis SimSport today. So not only racing against each other, but always a bit of bragging rights when it's against your teammates.
Yeah, and going off the times we saw in in practice rather, a pretty tight field, especially in the GT3, where I think every single car was within a second of each other, which is just what you'd hope for in a spec class like that. But should be very close racing in both fields, even though there are still a few BOP issues, I think, with that new Porsche, or with the Porsche relative to the new McLaren and the BMW in GT4.
Yeah, that BMW M4 GT4 in our GT4 class. Many people are complaining about the extent to which it's had its wings clipped quite a bit slower, apparently, than before. And unfortunately, it seems like it's not quite competitive with the Cayman or with the McLaren. At least it's good that the new car, the new McLaren, has a chance. If it was the McLaren that was way off pace compared to the others, people would be equally disappointed, but it would also sort of undermine some of the purpose of this event as well, which is for people to get a good shakedown and a good grip on the new 570S.
One thing you can say about that new McLaren is that it looks great out here. And we've got a fair share of teams that have shown up in some really nice liveries too. I'm sort of looking through the field at all of those as our first qualifying laps come in. About half the field set a time so far, but about 3 more laps to go for the majority of them. Should lead to that timing sheet tightening up a bit.
Yeah, for GT3 at the moment, we saw Miguel Vigo, Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing at the top, but only just clear of Jeff Tyler. And then for the GT4 class, looked like it's Mark McCormick at the top there. Actor McLaren's doing quite well for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Mark McCormick, of course, kicked some butt on Wednesday night in our Champ Car broadcast, and so now he's come back again for some more, and he's going to see if he can show these guys how to drive a McLaren tonight. Let's hope that he keeps his eyes on the fuel calculator for this one.
Well, it ought to be pretty easy for the first one. Fill her up. It's that second pit stop that is, well, might be a bit different. GT4 cars also, from these more recent updates, have lost a little bit of their range. They stop a little more frequently. The stints not quite as Herculean as I think they used to be for a little while there, which means we haven't done anything additional to cap the fuel capacity in GT4, but they still should be headed for a 2-stop race today.
Riding along with Bastian Halsig in that new McLaren as he cycles around for his third lap here. Looks like this one will be just a setup for his final lap after an off track on the second and on the third laps. It's really tough to get this first turn right. He's flying down in here, and you really have to get right on the edge, clip that inside curve, and he's done it nicely this time, maybe even given up a little bit. You can put, just so much off track before you start getting yourself in trouble and end up invalidating that qualifying lap. Really interesting track out here, heading into turn number 3 and 4, and then down this big curving parabolic straight towards what will probably be the primary passing zone, gotta think, and an exciting one at that. Always fun to see cars go 2 wide, 3 wide as they make their way around this corner. Before heading back towards the stadium section, of course making a few detours along the way.
That hairpin at the far side is one place I think we might see a little bit more overtaking. It's far more inviting to overtake there than it is at turn 1, for example. The hairpin, it's the fastest part of the track into a very, very slow corner, and they make the entry a little bit wider there as well. So that's going to be one place to look out for the action. And then to the sort of historic final stadium section, what was always the only twisty bit to the old Hockenheimring is, of course, preserved. Nicely banked there, but Bastian Halsig has been a little wide. And then it's sort of 3 right-handers flowing into each other for the end here, and between the final corner and the penultimate corner, you've got to try to keep it on the road, on the curb. I wonder if that was a little too far for Bastian Halsig.
Yeah, judging by the way he hit the brakes before the start-finish line, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. But things are shaping up nicely. A couple guys showing some really unexpected, well, maybe not unexpected, but impressive pace here in qualifying. The Sort of Fast Racing team currently leading the GT4 field with 46.7, and the GTSRL guys coming in second place as it stands with a 46.9. The fastest laps we saw in qualifying were right around that 46.9, so a really impressive effort here from Sort of Fast Racing as we watch the Hugh Jass McLaren team come across the line. That car being piloted by Alex Albert. And knowing Alex, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed by that outcome. He likes to get up towards the pointy end of the field, but it is, of course, a 2.5-hour long race today, so a lot of opportunities to do well. And we did see for a moment there that disc racing car, the only BMW in the field, maybe a little bit off in terms of outright pace, but it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up over the longer run here. Maybe fuel will help him out.
So for our rolling start, they're all going to line up on the, well, not the grid. They all line up before the stadium section, about 2/3 of the way around the lap. And we get the Porsche pace car today. And the grid is going to look like Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing on the pole, sharing the front row with Jeff Tyler. Then Sim Racing Channel and PG13 racing the row behind in GT3. AOD Racing BMW White. That's one of the cars that's going to have two drivers today, I think. Sharing that row with Ronin SimSport Academy. Then we've got the one of the other GT3 geodesic racing cars, Orma Sim Racing Team. We've got Aaron Thacker and Cross Continental Motorsports with no qualifying times, but of course they get gridded at the back of the GT3 field in front of the GT4s. Devon, you can go and take that look at our GT4 field, where I think quite a lot of the action is going to be today.
Well, of course, we're celebrating the McLaren, so it makes sense to see a McLaren on pole. That's Mark McCormick of Sorta Fast Racing. GTSRL Racing, piloted by Owen Jolivet, is in second place. Genesis Sim Sport in third. Direct Esports in fourth. AOD Racing Purple in fifth. The first Hugh Jass car, HJ Cup, piloted by Antonio Alvarez in fifth. HJ Anime Boogaloo is running in sixth. Full Send Racing in seventh place. HJ Maca in ninth. AOD Racing White in 10th. Tentacle Grape in 11th. Genesis SimSport in 12th. Disc Racing in 13th. And Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Black looks like they'll be lining up at the back of our GT4 field. But like we said, a very long race today, 2.5 hours. Not a lot of overtaking opportunities, but you do that many times around the circuit, we're going to see a lot of action here today, I'm sure.
Well, they're rolling for the somewhat shortened pace lap today. There is 2.5 hours on the clock, and shortly it's going to start ticking down at Hockenheim. Miguel Vigo leads GT3 class right now. He's given plenty of space to the pace car. He's waiting on the green flag, and now his Lamborghini is going to roar into the lead, followed by an Audi, followed by a BMW. So no complaints about the bot in GT3 as we get racing at Hockenheim. GT4, things are a little messier there over second place.
Ooh, and they've got a GT3 car joining from the pit lane. That looks like Egan Farrell of AOD Racing coming out of the pit lane right in the thick of the GT4 field. That'll be a little bit of chaos for him as he tries to make his way through cleanly.
Thankfully, he's got the big back straight here to be able to put power down and get clear of most of the GT4 field. But yeah, pit lane start there. Not sure what's going on for AOD Racing on that one.
Oh, and we have a little bit of contact there in our GT3 field. Just saw the number 75 car of Leonard Suarez get together with what looked like Nathan Parkinson in another Alpine Stars car there, or sorry, another geodesic car there, piloted by Nathan Parkinson. Either way, both cars continue on with just a little bit of damage on the back of that Leonard Suarez piloted BMW GT3. Things got a little tight on the exit of the hairpin there.
It's almost one lap done. Your pole sitter from each class still leads, but we certainly saw a little bit of action in other places, including second in GT3, where from the front row, Jeff Tyler has now lost out a position to Thomas Hinds.
Yeah, and we did see one car spin off during that first lap. Looked like it was Aaron Thacker who found himself out in the grass, just caught out maybe by those cold tires, but he'll be having to make his way through the GT4 field in that GT3 Audi R8.
Well, just as I say, Jeff Tyler's back to second. So he might have had just a little hiccup on the opening lap. Now right back into his flow, and you can see Cameron Bidwell in fourth, staying with them as well. So as the leader maybe gets away a little bit, second, third, and fourth Looking a little interesting in GT3. So BMW seemed like maybe it has a little bit more legs on it in a straight line.
Early indications would be yes, and I'm interested to see how that plays out because the infield certainly seems to favor those other cars a little bit more. Nice moves here from Thomas Hinz on the inside of Jeff Tyler there, pushing him outside and offline through this critical infield portion here. Getting the tight entrance into turn number 9 there can be a real hindrance as you head down this short chute towards the Mobil 1 right-hander here into the second stadium section.
Yeah, so good stuff at the front of GT3. Front of GT4, Mark McCormick is not getting away in that McLaren just yet. McLaren looks reasonable in a straight line. Again, a mid-engined car similar to the Cayman. I think the Cayman still has a little bit of an advantage in some of the corners compared to the turbocharged McLaren. And when you look, especially from some of the lower shots at the McLaren, it seems to ride just a little bit higher than the Cayman does.
Well, and it wouldn't be a preview, of this new car or a review of this new car, I guess, if we didn't talk a little bit about how it drives. And I gotta say, my early impressions of the McLaren is that it almost drives a bit like an open wheel car. It feels very precise, very nimble, quicker to turn in even than the Porsche. Really a nicely well-balanced car, just right out of the box.
When are we starting our car review YouTube channel, Devin?
Once you start buying me cars.
Okay, all right. That's a long way away then. That's a long way away. I thought that Owen Jolivet here, probably Jolivet, I don't know, says Team France. My sincerest apologies. I thought he was getting a little bit closer down that long banana curving back straight towards the hairpin, but no attempt at a move. And now we're into the section of the track where I think that Cayman in third from Genesis SimSport, Randall McGrew, can start. They've both hit the curb on the apex here, and just looked like the McLaren bounces a little bit more, takes a little bit longer to settle across the curbs than the Cayman. Even though the Cayman in the GT4 isn't great at it, it does seem like there's a little bit more bounce, a little bit more unsettled in the McLaren when you have to go across the curbs.
Yeah, a little bit hard to say. It could be a setup thing too. I mean, there's so many buttons to click on these cars once you get into that garage menu that someone that's a little bit overdamped might just see that car moving around a little bit more. Either way, it looks like things are getting a little tighter towards the front. Little jukes from Owen Jolivet there, but not quite close enough to make a move into turn number 1. Is there an incident limit on today's race, Haynes?
There is not. I want to say I almost regret that decision, but I wanted to err on the side of letting them race and letting them explore Hockenheim than, someone racing 2 hours and, getting a penalty and it ruining their day.
Makes sense to me. But that does mean that the first turn is a little bit less dicey of a proposition once we're into the race session here. You can go more or less out as wide as you want without suffering too many consequences. You might have noticed in the back of that shot there an Audi R8 coming through the field. Yes, that's right. That's that R8 of Aaron Thacker, who I mentioned spinning on the first lap. He's now gotten himself pointed the right way, and he's making up ground, sort of cutting through the McLarens and the Porsches ahead of him. And it'll be interesting to see how his day looks once he makes his way through the 10 or so cars that are in front of him very shortly here. Should be perhaps a little bit of unwanted excitement for both parties as he makes his way through the field here.
I don't want to. I think this might be some of Aaron Thacker's first laps of Hockenheimring that we're watching right now.
I do have it on pretty good authority that he performed no laps in qualifying or in practice, and that he finished downloading the track about 25 minutes ago.
Well, I think he is getting the performance that his effort has deserved.
But I can say that despite all of those handicaps that Aaron has so graciously provided himself, he is a pretty dang good GT3 racer. So, in the long term, this strategy, unorthodox as it may be, might end up working out for him. And I would not be surprised to see him finish somewhat better than the last place where he currently is, as he makes a nice move up the inside of the Hugh Jass Porsche and hits the brakes real hard and comes to a complete stop, dodging the Anime Boogaloo McLaren. That's the AOD Racing Purple McLaren just ahead of him, currently piloted by Mo Islam. Patience is a virtue in multi-class racing, when you can afford it anyway, and Aaron is certainly being patient as he makes his way through the field here.
He's cat amongst the pigeons of a great race in GT4 because all these guys are still staying in touch with the lead. As he gets past AOD Racing Purple and Direct Esports at the same time. Direct Esports are well off and are going to dive back down the inside again. Wow. Keeping that GT3 between themselves and some of the competition. I think Aaron's going to have to wait for the pit straight on this one.
I'm not getting the impression that he wants to wait.
Very, very generous of... Oh, he's going to park in front of Bastian Helsing, who's not happy with that at all. Not even in the slightest, but it is very, very generous of Aaron's wife to let him race today.
It's always good when we can get him out on track. But he's exploring, as you see. He's finding the curbs. Big sausage curbs on the inside of some of the corners here.
I believe they call them Verst. I believe they call them Verst here.
Big worst curbs. I can't even get it out.
Change for the lead in GT4.
Just ahead of us in the shot there. That's that Genesis SimSpeed car piloted by Randall McGrew, making his way past Mark McCormick. Now, remember, I did allude to the fact that Mark did have some fuel issues in Wednesday's race. He might have learned something there, though, and he might be trying to save a little bit of fuel by getting behind here. Either that or the Porsche might be just coming on and showing off that sort of excellent pace that it currently has. Either way, this battle is about to be interrupted by an Audi that makes its way up the inside, and McCormick, being a wise racer, realizes that sometimes letting the GT3 car by is just the better option. For saving you time. And
it kind of looks like Aaron's gone back to play baseball against 7-year-olds here, with his GT3 lapping amongst the GT4s.
That does seem right up Aaron's alley, you know what I'm saying? Finally, though, he has managed to overtake the GT4 field, and we'll see how that pans out for him. And with no contact whatsoever, that means that our GT4 field is free to continue racing, and racing they are. Direct Esports in that 88 car is too wide with AOD Racing as they head down into turn number 2. Gives plenty of racing room, and should have the benefit of the wider exits, though that, of course, gets compromised by turn number 4 as they head down the parabolica here. Inside line now belongs to Mo Islam in that purple and white AOD car. And we'll see who's braver on the brakes as they head into this stunning hairpin here at turn number 6. Over under. Mo Islam plays it perfect, albeit with a little bit of help from Antonio Alvarez, who got up the inside of Bastian there. Still plenty of racing here, though, in the GT4 category. Our GT3 field has separated themselves a little bit.
Yeah, they sure have. This GT4 scrap is good stuff. Really, really scintillating, and we saw that hairpin is quite slow, quite tight. Tough to go too wide through there, almost like the final hairpin of Long Beach, I think. Helsing is on the back foot. As Antonio Alvarez has a look one way, has a look the other.
Alvarez is pretty wily with his overtakes. He's tricked me a few times heading into a braking zone, so not surprised to see him all over the rear bumper here as he's juking back and forth. See if there's a move into turn one, just to peek, just to make sure that he knows he's there, but he does manage to convince him to run a little bit wide. Not enough to get an advantage.
I'm informed that if you go wide enough at turn one, there is a slowdown there. So obviously you need to go even wider than Helsing did there. But then he got very deep on the brakes down towards about turn 2 or whatever it is. That did not help him get the optimal line off that complex of 3 corners onto the back straight here. So now Alvarez in front of him, Bueller behind.
Bastian does like going late on the brakes though. Ooh, and he barges his way in and manages to, seems like, take the spot, though that was Alvarez decides who needs exit curbs anyway and just drives around him to take the spot back as they head into the first stadium section here again. And then he gets it in a little bit deep too. Oh man, these guys are having a good time right here.
Warm day in the sun at Hockenheim though. It is a little hot, and I wonder if that is, some of these guys look like they're starting to struggle a little bit to keep the cars reliably, you know, getting towards the apex. What an off track there from Antonio.
That is certainly not the racing line, but you know, like we said, we said boys have at it. Turned off that incident limit, and we are going to see all of the lines here at Hockenheim today.
I won't put words into anyone else's mouth, but even from just some of the sprint races I've done, it seems like it's quite easy to overheat the front tires and the car to become, both of the McLaren and the Cayman, to become a bit boat-like, a bit tougher through the high-speed corners.
Well, and lap 8 might just be the sweet spot on that. I'm riding along with Disc Racing, Isara Streeter in that number 00 car, and his tires are certainly worse for wear after... Her tires are certainly worse for wear after taking a nice big slide on the exit of that Mobil 1 right-hander and gently tapping the wall on this last lap. That cost her a fair amount of time, but she is rejoined and continuing on safely, albeit now with several GT3 cars between her and most of the rest of the GT4 field.
It's kind of entertaining watching the M4 GT3s lap the M4 GT4. It's like, who are you? You, but faster. That is that new GT3 from BMW.
And it is surprising, you know, despite them both being that BMW platform, the GT3 car still looks like a monster.
Oh, drama
to the
behind.
GT4.
That's the Ronin car. Steve Cooley has looped it somehow at that hairpin.
I think he got a little bit of help there. That looks like Thomas Hinz made a move up the inside, and, well, 2 lines collided, and one car ended up facing the wrong way. Luckily, about as low speed as collisions can get, so it looks like both guys will be continuing on.
And it looks like Thomas Hinz has gone and waited to give that position back. That's a little bit of comfort, a little bit of sportsmanship to Steve Cooley, but they've still, both of them then, lost out to that AOD BMW. Oh, no more problems for Cooley. They come together again.
Oh, no. That Lamborghini's away.
Hinzy's going to be able to get it back on the pavement. Cooley as well, but action-packed lap for both of those guys. Contact went one way, and then I think the contact has been returned in the other direction. Both of them just, not intentional, but just a little bit sloppy there. Goes to show you can Sebastian Vettel it quite easily at that corner.
Peeking back at our GT4 battle, AOD Racing Purple and Antonio Alvarez in the Hugh Jass Cup car just behind him. That's Mo Islam in the car ahead. They're still battling away, but they have managed to get themselves a little bit of a gap back to that Direct Esports Bastian Halsig car and Alexander Bueller in the HJ Anime Boogaloo car. Might be my favorite team name of the event. A little underwhelmed by the paint job though currently.
Spent all the time thinking about the good name and not enough time painting up his cars as Alex Bueller is wont to do.
Yeah, very disappointed by the lack of a theme livery. Well, we'll see though. Maybe if we say it loud enough on the broadcast, he'll hear us and make one in Photoshop while he's racing.
Pressure is definitely on Mo here, as the GT3 leader, I think, is catching them for the first time now. Yeah, that's who it is. Oh, 3 wide as a pit stop and repairs for Aaron Thacker. He's rejoining right as the GT3 leader chops through. All clean.
Is he stuck on the pit limit or what's going on there? He's going so slow. Oh no, it looks he's backed up to speed now, but that was certainly an interesting approach to the pit exit.
How's the straight line speed for Alvarez? Trying to shape up on the brakes into the hairpin. He's looking, he's going. He's down the inside. And maybe tricks AOD Racing Purple into going a little wide, who then take the opportunity to, I think, return favour to Antonio and use that bit of runoff on the exit of the hairpin.
And that is a pretty important GT3 car that's just come by. That's Jeff Tyler, who's currently in second place. He's following Miguel Vigo, who's in that Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing car, the Lamborghini just ahead. Lamborghini now continuing to overtake the GT4 field, getting a little more of the front runners on the run down towards the second stadium.
There it is. Only a couple more to go this time. He's sort of fast. Mark McCormick, our leading McLaren, and then the leader in GT4 class, the Cayman from Genesis SimSport. So just one more to go for Miguel Vigo. His lead is just about 3 seconds.
He and Jeff seem to be having a pretty good battle here, and certainly one of those ones where traffic management is going to be really, really key.
And what about third and fourth in GT3 for a bit of traffic management, as both of them try to shape down the inside here. Because Cameron Bidwell in PG13 is going to go 3 wide with some of our friends. But last lap, Nathan Parkinson in the Lamborghini in 4th place was actually the fastest driver. Oh, he's not got Aaron Thacker doing him any favors there, as they're all mixed in with the GT4 traffic as well. And once again, Mo Islam and Antonio Alvarez deciding that that red curb means nothing to them. Parkinson has gained 3 positions so far in this race. I think he's shaping for another, because he has been catching and putting pressure on the bimmer of Cameron Bidwell.
And I've just watched Aaron Thacker have another moment in the braking zone. Lock it up, dodge all other things around him, not hit a wall, and reset his car back to the pit. So that might be the end of Aaron Thacker's day. That's certainly a rage quit if I've ever seen one, but a shame for him, and probably a relief for the other Hugh Jass guys that were racing around him. We'll see you in the chat here, Aaron, in just a minute.
Oh, when it's not your day, it's not your day. Jeff Tyler with the fastest lap of the race now, though, in 2nd place. That's a positive sign now that our 2 leaders have gotten clear of that gaggle of GT4 traffic and also a GT3 traffic. We're seeing who's got a setup that's going to last on the tyres and ramp up the pace. So who might give it away a little bit. Track will be cooling off all this time as well, Devon. It's still, I would say, medium warm, Certainly not the gentlest it ever could be on the tires, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, about 3 times hotter than Regina, Saskatchewan is today. So for all you folks from Regina, Saskatchewan, that'll be really helpful information. In the
Shout
meantime,
out to all
yeah, all 6.5. I'm riding along with the Nathan Parkinson piloted GT3 car here. It's the Geodesic Racing white car. As he comes through this GT3 or GT4 field and has to take some creative lines. Really showing off the performance difference between those cars, though, as he's easily able to dive underneath that McLaren piloted by Mark McCormick, who's no slouch in that thing. And he's doing his best, Nathan Parkinson is, to chase down Cameron Bidwell in the PG13. It looks like a BMW ahead of him, yeah, as they make their way through traffic. So still a few battles here at the front end of the GT3 field that are pretty close together. Ooh, not if he keeps that up. That was an exciting line on the exit there. Put 2 tires off on the grass. Didn't seem to cost him too much, though.
Still the closest race in GT3 is 3rd and 4th. Still just bounces back and forth between 2 seconds and 3 seconds for the lead. Vigo has responded a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also loving this rivalry between AOD Racing Purple and HJ Cup.
Yeah, it's honestly, man, it seems like whenever I race with Antonio, he gets right on your pace and he just sticks with you all the time. Might just be that he and I have pretty similar pace, but the thing is I don't think he's going to give up easily on this position. So even though I saw that the AOD car run pretty wide in turn 1 this last time by, Antonio has managed to shorten that gap up. And with a little bit of help from Mo there, who just ran wide, he's going to have a real nice run as they head into the short chute here. Over under, all the way on the throttle. And in the drag race, he gets a little bit of help from Mo there, I think, and he takes the spot away. So just change for a top 5 position there. That puts Antonio into 4th place in the GT4 field. And his next target is, however, going to be several seconds ahead. That's Owen Jolivet, who is in that GTS RL car, following a few seconds behind the front end of the GT4 field. Watching Egan Farrell with that slightly bruised rear bumper as he makes his way through. Of course, taking those positions while also at the same time trying to hold off Thomas Hinds, hard charging after his earlier incident in that BMW. Might have an opportunity here into the hairpin.
It's his favorite, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to be his move. Helps when you get a little bit of room. Oh, so that exit was almost a calamity. Quick thinking there from Egan to avoid as Thomas takes the spot away. Track like this is really tough on a guy that has single monitors, and that certainly seemed to be the case for Egan there. Really hard to see the apex and the guys around you when you're going big into a corner like that. If you only got 65 degrees field of view or something like that.
Yeah, you need 180 for a hairpin. That's what it feels like. A couple more GT4s for these guys. Includes our 2 leaders in GT4, that is. Tantalizing little prospect of a battle there between Randall McGrew and Mark McCormick, because McCormick got within a second of the lead and now dropped back a tiny bit, and then he comes forward to battle for the lead again. So interesting to see.
And Mark did show a lot of consistency earlier this week. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, run some really solid laps and make up that ground here, as it seems to be the case over the last few laps. He's on average been about a tenth, right around about a half tenth slower over the last 5 laps than Randall McGrew is in that Porsche, but just a little bit of traffic can certainly make a difference on that one.
Oh no, I've just noticed the livery for Owen Jolivet is the SRO GT4 challenge kind of paint. So now we've got whatever the pure McLaren GT series is. We've got IMSA Pilot Challenge, and now, just to confuse it, a third new style of number panel for the McLaren.
Perfect. That'll make everyone with an eye towards design just twitch their eyes a little bit as they watch the broadcast. Closest racing on the track right now, though, does seem to belong to a new pair. That's Cameron Bladwell and Cameron Bidwell. Sorry, not Bladwell, and Nathan Parkinson as he makes a move up the inside here. This hairpin delivering, like I said, seems to be the best place on track to try and make a pass. And Nathan Parkinson does flying up the inside there. We'll see if he's able to continue driving away, or if Cameron's going to have another go at him as they head in towards the stadium here.
A pretty job well done, at least so far. Into third, but now quite away from the leading duo. Like many drivers before him, he's going to dip 2 tires into the dirt coming into the stadium.
Now, don't get me wrong, I really love sim racing, but one of the things that really doesn't quite transfer is how much you pucker when you put 2 tires on the grass from a real car into or on the end of a curb. Really wakes you up, makes you realize you made a mistake. Seems like these guys are getting away with it pretty regularly, though. And that might just be because the cars that I tend to race don't have any sort of traction control or anything like that. But these things all have a pretty comprehensive array of assists that are probably helping them out a bit. Don't you agree? You can also tell me I'm completely wrong.
I'm watching the 16 at the moment. I'm wondering if this is a retirement or our first pit stop, and it might be a retirement, unfortunately.
Is that just
damage on the Orma Sim Racing team car?
Oh yeah, that car looked like it was driving a little bent on the way in. That's a shame. Leonardo had a decent pace and a very adventurous line into the pits, which might have influenced that decision. Well, and I can confirm that the ambient noises are present on this track, as that siren went off and blew my ears out.
What, have you heard the monkeys at Bathurst?
I have not. I'll need to go looking for that.
No. So our friend Antonio Alvarez told me, David, on iRacing, why is there the sound of monkeys at Bathurst? I was like, what? So then I went and I had to listen, and I was like, Antonio, those are kookaburras. and he's like, "Oh, sorry, in Colombia we don't have birds that sound like monkeys." Yeah, right.
That's good stuff. Antonio is still in contact there with Mo Islam. Hasn't managed to make too much of a gap as both of them explore the, well, in the dry at least, hopefully grippier surface of the drag strip, looking for a little bit of extra speed.
It's not grippier in the wet.
Yeah, as we all learned last year.
Ask Nico Hülkenberg's podium chances. It's still too real. But the two of them are definitely still being stalked by HJ Anime Boogaloo, and they haven't lost direct esports either. He can still see them. So these four are all of a very similar pace. That wasn't a great run onto the back straight for Antonio.
Now, at about 35 minutes in, a question starts to enter in mind. Pit stops for these things. You're figuring 50 minutes or 45? Not entirely sure how long they go on a tank of fuel out here. Do you have any idea?
I was hearing just a bit past an hour lately for GT4. With the arrival of the McLaren, its fuel tank and its consumption, the Cayman's gone from a 115 litre tank to an 87 litre tank or so. So what very much used to be sort of cars that could go 90 minutes on a stint is now a bit closer to an hour, just over an hour, maybe an hour 10.
Very interesting. Either way, it
two
looks
drivers
like
we haven't seen a whole lot of would be number 110 and the battle he's having with Jorge Saligo in the full send Racing 5. McLaren versus McLaren. They got very close at the hairpin. And now, well, Jorge is about a second faster on the last lap. So is he looking after his tyres better? It definitely looked like it there.
hard to say. He made that one look easy, though.
Wow. Now here comes your leader.
Miguel Vigo having some fun, slicing and dicing. It's always nice to be the fast car in a multi-class race. And has had a pretty consistent, pretty evenly matched little set of laps here. He and Jeff are 2.6 seconds apart last time across the line, which would mean that Jeff has made up about 0.4 of a second over the last 10 laps or so on Miguel, which could very well have all been lost in that hairpin there. So very evenly matched for those two, either way. Make some aggressive moves down into the stadium to get that full send car.
Was ambitious, I think. He's trying to make sure he can keep Miguel Vigo where he can see him.
Mm-hmm. You don't want the guy ahead to feel like there's no pressure on him, right? So not surprising to see him pushing. As he comes up on Carlos Vila and gets stuck through these last two corners.
Yeah, good buddies and teammates there.
Gotta help the brother out. Get out of the way.
They're not quite brothers, but I believe some people might mistake them for it.
The livery's like that, you know.
Oh, Jeff. Going around the outside there. We've seen that the GT4s like to use all of the road.
Mm-hmm.
He probably hasn't done.
No fear.
Carlos any favors.
No fear, certainly from Jeff. But easy thing to do when you're on the back half of the car ahead of you You know, if he tracks all the way out, well, he's just coming right across your nose. No harm, no foul, right? For yourself, anyway. And these two will be coming up on that little battle pack that we've been covering pretty extensively. Antonio Moislam, Alex Buehler, and Bastian Halsig in that Direct Esports McLaren just getting overtaken by our leader Miguel Viva.
So, one thing to highlight here that could be important in a couple of these little battles is most of the teams today, about 2/3 of them, is just one driver. But there are, conversely, then the remaining third of the teams where we're expecting to see a driver swap. Will it be early? Will it be late? That's for those teams to decide and us to find out when they go and do it. But, AOD Racing White, 2 drivers, PG13. Currently 4th in GT3. They've got 2 drivers, so we're going to see Paul Gibson at some point there.
Yep, should make a difference on pace, but also a critical difference in the pit stop there. Probably a few seconds longer.
Well, it depends quite how they do it.
Yeah, I guess, hey, if they decide to do the full stop with the driver swap, so the early change, then probably not. But if they decide to wait a little bit later towards the end, that could become a factor. And that Audi, no, actually, this is the Lamborghini just really makes a big backfire when it's shifting gears. It's pretty wild sounding.
Just a little bit of GT4 contact there.
Yeah, Mo really had to make a dodge there as Antonio looked like he was a bit checked offline, maybe from being overtaken there by Jeff Tyler, the teammate, in the faster class. Manages to hold on to it though, and they continue on, narrowly separated. And Buehler started to enter the picture just behind them. He's been biding his time, trying to get up there. Yeah. Oh, Antonio going for the pit lane now. Interesting. That's a little early. Are you I haven't done enough time in the pit lane clearly here, but seems as if you can make a pretty late entrance there too. Hope that hasn't cost him a penalty. It's kind of like the entry at the Nürburgring GP track as well, where there's the red-white hashing that you're free to, jump across on the pit in. Like that INSA race today. It's an advisory line. Not a mandatory one to follow. Anyway, all up on the jacks there, Antonio. We'll have to see when he comes out if he's taking another set of tires. Very much did. Huh? Car was very clearly on the jacks for Antonio. Oh, don't they go up on the jacks for fuel no matter what? No. No? Okay, well, hey, here we go. Look at me covering my first ever GT4 race. So he's got cold tires on his outlap and he needs to be a little careful. I don't think he's going to be undercutting those guys he was racing against. Feels like it's probably got to be the right way to play it, though. Take tires on your first stop and then kind of work it from there. The name that I expected to be saying a little bit more often is Alex Alvarez in that 337 Hugh Jass Maca car, currently being overtaken by Jack Potts in the XCM Beamer. It did appear to me that he took an early dive somewhere down pit lane, but perhaps I'm wrong about that as I'm looking on his pit stops. Nope, I think you're wrong. Yeah, either that or he had some sort of issue anyway, and he's ended up pretty far back here relative to the rest of the field, though his pace has certainly stabilized in the last few laps.
I think he just had too much chicken and PBR at dinner time.
That will get you. Either way, speaking of GT4s back at the front end of that field, Mark McCormick has made up some ground now and is following rather closely behind Randall McGrew. So perhaps we might be seeing the crossover on that little battle in terms of pace of the setup over the length of the stint.
Yeah, that's pretty close, isn't it?
McCormick's been chopping it down over the last few laps here. He's about 0.3 quicker on average than Randall McGrew is. So either McGrew is off a cliff or maybe has decided he needs to start saving or something. Either way, it's very tight relative to where it was just a lap ago.
Bit wide of the last apex there as well for McGrew. That can happen. I think if you wear out the front left tire to make it keep turning to get to that last apex can be a challenge. And then the same deal at turn 1 where no fear across the curb for McCormick. None whatsoever. I'm surprised that worked at all. Now he's down the inside for turn 2.
Yeah, if he can do that every single lap, he's definitely figured something out. That was a big jump. And we saw Randall McGrew get a little bit wide there, a little bit loose on the exit too, as Mark McCormick swings around the outside and takes that spot away. Could be a case of guy losing a little bit of focus out in the lead too. It's easy enough to do on the longer race like this.
I mean, that turn 1 actually seems deceptively difficult. Like, you've got to absolutely get that apex, but if you get too much of it, 3 inches too far to the right and you bottom out the car and might spin, 3 inches too wide and you're really not going to carry the speed. Seems like one of those corners where the precision required is really high to be consistent through turn 1 every single time.
Yeah, one of those deals where, yeah, absolutely. Get
it's just one fast line, and it's a really narrow, little tightrope to walk.
Either way, though, it looks like Mark McCormick is just driving away after getting ahead. I don't know what's happened to McGrew's setup here or McGrew's car, but he cannot keep contact.
Again, no fear. No fear of that red curb. Could also be seeing that the McLaren is more or less affected by the fuel weight. So maybe, there's quite a few cars where you do a stint, you get a long way into the stint, you burn the fuel down, and suddenly, with a light tank, the car is alive again. Could be the case that the McLaren is more sensitive to that than the Cayman.
Yeah, absolutely a possibility.
Yeah, a little more subdued at the start, and now 15 minutes, 20 minutes, who knows, away from their pit stop. It could be that McCormick's hitting his stride.
Either way, they got Cameron Bidwell in that PG-13 racing car coming through. Making it look pretty easy once again. And that's what you like to have. Well, this might compromise Mark as they head into the hairpin here. Certainly backed him up a little bit.
I think luckily that hairpin, with the way it's banked, you can take the narrow entry and then just immediately hook the curb and the banking and get on with it. Whereas turn 1, obviously, you take a compromised entry there, you're losing a lot of speed, and some of the other faster corners, narrow entry is bad. That's probably one of the corners you get away with it more readily. Like, you can take a narrow entry to the carousel on the Nordschleifer because you get to the apex, it hooks the apex, and off you go.
Yeah, it just kind of turns right up. Or turns right in, rather. Either way, it looks like McGrew has learned something there from McCormick, because this time through turn 1, he stays right with them as they go flying over that inside curve, and we have a verifiable battle for the lead of GT4 right now. Big moves down Parabolica. Get a little bit of draft from McGrew. Stops, gets on the brakes much earlier though. Decides he'd rather line up something for the exit. And lights up the tires a little bit on the way out of the corner too. McLaren really does seem to have some legs though on the exit. Gear 2, 3 seems to get away from the Porsche a little bit more. And the Porsche maybe has a little bit more on the top end. Not entirely sure.
So the gearing is different across all of the cars, noticeably so. 7-speed gearbox in the McLaren, where you never use 7th. 6 is the height you really go to. The 6 speeds in the Cayman. So it feels like in racing conditions, you probably take the hairpin in 2nd, and then you use 6th gear on the back straight. But in between, the ratios feel a bit different for the Cayman and the McLaren. So yeah, it could be McLaren pulls a little better initially, but then to 5th gear to 6th gear, the ratios are a little better for the Porsche.
Well, and we did see all the success that McLaren had at Daytona this year, so definitely a car that kind of thrives on the higher speed circuits.
And I'm thinking we're about 10 minutes away from seeing a lot of GT3 pit stops as well. So that's one to keep our eye out for, especially those leading 2, where the gap's out a little bit further again.
Yeah. Sneaking through traffic. It looks like Jeff has lost about another second since the last time we checked in. Now about nearly 5 seconds behind that geodesic racing car. As he overtakes the team car in this lower class. Battle's pretty stretched out though for the most part. As we look through the field, a few seconds there, a few seconds here, but it kind of in pairs. So first and second real close together, third and fourth, real close, 4 seconds apart. Third and fourth, 3 seconds apart, and 5th and 6th about 2 seconds apart. So everyone's got, and then 7th and 8th are about a second apart. So everyone's got someone to battle with. They're just all kind of doing it separately across the track.
9:13 in pits. I think there's a driver change there. It's one of the cars with 2 drivers. So Dominic Dernenberg out, Florian Neidl in. For 2 really German-sounding guys, they're Club Canada and Club Illinois. So I wanted to say, have they got a home ground advantage? And maybe yes, maybe no. So it looks real Canadian at 9:13.
It's a nice-looking car. Always love to see the red and white on a car.
Just got to change that on the front of the car for a maple leaf, and you're all set.
And I'm hearing another car in the pits. Got who's that? That's Steve Cooley in the Ronin Sim Sports car. Currently the last car of our GT3s, and also Alex Albert in the GT4 McLaren taking the pit lane this time by. Albert, that might be a little bit early for relative what we're thinking, but the car does appear relatively straight. There was a little bump on the right rear, but I don't think
it was beat in a couple of corners until he hit his marks in pit lane.
Either way, he's gotten out of the car now, and Giovanni Romano is hopping in. Gio, of course, very skilled GT4 driver, though probably more known for his work in the Porsche Cup series. Yeah.
It's got a big complicated acronym. It's like Porsche Esports Super Cup Canada or Sprint Cup Canada.
Yeah, I didn't try.
Fair enough.
But you're absolutely right. And we also saw Nathan Parkinson in the GT3 Geodesic Racing white car. And that's another one of those cars that has two drivers. So I'm not sure if we'll see the driver change this time. We'll have to wait on that one. But he's in the pits as well from 4th place. Dustin Gilliland down and away in that Ronin SimSport car. Rejoining just in front of a name we haven't said in a little while, Bastian Halsig in that Direct Esports car, who is currently a little bit just looking down the track at Carlos Villa in that Alpine-Stars Geodesic racing car, who's been a little bit quicker than him for the last few laps. Perhaps Bastian's deep braking sort of maneuvers in their first part of the race have cost him a little bit of speed later on in the stint here.
A little bit more of a handful now than earlier, potentially. Yep. I'm interested on strategy in GT3 because that's where the fuel and the tires happen separately. So Parkinson in the Geodesic racing car that was in 3rd, he took tires. Ronin SimSport, Dustin Gilliland took tires. Pit stop that Thomas Hinz has made was fuel only. So is he going to keep that up and go 2.5 hours on the one set of tires, or is he going to do a tire change later and hope to be quick at the end? Because otherwise, I would have thought you start the race with as much fuel as you can cram in there, go as long as you can, then change the tires at that stop, and then it's just 1.5 hours to get home, and you just take a splash on the second set of tires when the track is a bit cooler, because it does keep cooling off.
That would seem like the conventional move to me. I mean, could be banking on maybe not a big move in temperature on the track, though it is down about 8 degrees since qualifying. Either way, that call hasn't seemed to slow down Dustin Gilliland as he makes his way through some GT4s there. That's Mo Islam in that AOD car. Going real deep under braking into the stadium again there, giving up some time. Back to Alex Buehler, who's trying to chase him down still. Those two, 4th and 5th.
We need to sort this out. Which is the stadium and which is the arena? Mercedes-Benz Arena is already a thing that exists in the first sector of the Nürburgring GP track, but that's what I want to call that earlier bit as well, and I want to call the last bit the stadium. I don't know.
I accept. Though, are we sure that this last corner isn't the arena?
I don't know. Last corner is the drag strip. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give you that. No, it's honestly a really nice looking facility, and one of the features that folks may have noticed during the Week 13 events out here is that there's actually a ton of different and in some cases odd, I will say, different layouts on this track that move your turn 1 anywhere from your turn 2 anywhere from right after turn number 1 all the way to a cutout in the middle of the parabolica that has absolutely no brake markers, nor any indication of where the track ends and the sand begins. So right about here. So it's kind of an interesting variety that you can get. And honestly, a few that really suit some of the slower cars as well. As we see...
Change the lead of GT4 as well.
And slow down. Oh, yeah?
McGrew is back to the lead. So he's gone and taken that this lap, I think.
Yeah, going back and looking at it, looks like he just took the wide line out of the turn number 6, the hairpin, and just powered down the straight and really beat the McLaren off the corner there.
Now parking it in the middle here. He's got Mark McCormick right behind him. So GT4 doing what it always seems to do, really, really close racing. Cruz a bit wide. Neither of them are going for pit in this time. They can probably still go, 5 more laps if they want to. It's just that we've seen that some other cars in class don't want to and have stopped a little early. McCormick with his textbook line through turn 1 is going to come back at it though, and this has given me a little bit of deja vu from earlier. They get close, but they don't touch.
Good stuff from the two of them.
Lead back.
Yeah, good stuff from the two of them. Really clean, respectful racing. These guys are clearly in it for the long haul.
Not done yet, though. McCormick feels the need to defend. The Porsche stayed with him in a straight line, but then sensibly gets on the brakes a little bit early. Real checkup at the apex. That's like what could be a cover band of Panic at the Disco. Checkup at the apex. A lot of GT3 pit stops, Devon. Jeff Tyler from second, PG13 from third. So where PG13 comes out compared to Nathan Parkinson will be interesting. How long this stop is for Jeff Tyler is also interesting for the race lead. Is Jeffy going to go tyres? PG13 are going to go driver change. That's something they're going to change, which probably means a tyre change. Yeah, new tyres for JT as well.
Ooh. And that Audi's got his rear tire spinning. That'd be a penalty in the real deal. Luckily, I think they'll get away with it in this one. That is a really odd visual bug.
I think it's a bug. I think Jeff could just be revving it.
It doesn't sound like he is.
You never know. He's away, and that was basically as full service as you get from basically empty, top the tank all the way up for new tyres. This is important outlap now because Vigo is in the lane from the lead. Is he going to do exactly the same now that he knows what service second place has taken? Maybe he feels comfortable to take tyres. If Jeff had gone no tyres, we might have seen Vigo react to that.
He might still make that call yet. I'm not entirely sure exactly where the drop-off point is. 2.5 hours might be a little bit of a sweet spot for they might be able to make it all the way to the end without taking all the good out of the tires, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do here.
Well, we'll know what he's doing in about 5 seconds when the fuel is done. And you can also see where Jeff Tyler is on the circuit, up to speed and motoring. The answer for Vigo is it's up on the jacks. So I think it's going to be pretty close once again after this round of pit stops. Everyone else from GT3 is also on the lane now. So that's XCM Cross Continental Motorsport and the AOD Racing White. AOD Racing BMW White. You listening, Devon?
Mm-hmm.
Owen Farrell.
Owen.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a lot of letters for an Owen. But I'll give it to you.
Well, it's in the same ballpark as you can spell Sean SHAUN or SEAN, and I think SEAN is more close to like the typical like Irish spelling. You can have different spellings of Owen.
I tell you, man, out here on the prairies, we don't get too many of those. Sean's, Owens, a whole lot.
you don't know many people called Sean, is that what you're telling me?
No, I know like 5. But first Owen I've ever met in real life. Virtual life. Here we go. Jeff Tyler, though, out of the pits after that stop, has actually actually lost a bit of time, it looks like, relative to Miguel Vigo. Vigo, of course, going to have to clear Dustin Gilliland a lap down at the moment. But looks like closer to maybe 6 or 7 seconds rather than the 2 seconds that they had last time that they were both on clean full laps.
It's 5 seconds right now between Vigo and Tyler. The problem that Tyler's got, though, is Hinsey, Thomas Hinz, pitted a little early, took fuel only, and now he's in the way. So Tyler has fresh tyres. He's carrying more fuel, so strategy-wise, he's sort of further down the road. Track position, he's got that Sim Racing Channel BMW between himself and the man that he's really battling.
And Hinz has had some pretty competitive pace, though Jeff has generally been a little bit faster. So we'll see how quickly he's able to dispatch these guys. As we take a look back at Miguel Vigo, who's going to be making a move on Dustin Gilliland this time by. And Gilliland should have the blue flags flying from the marshal stands he's driving by, but we'll see if he gives it up that easily. And does give him a little bit of room. Nice little lift there on the way into the corner. Vigo makes sure it's a done deal by going real deep, but is able to get out of that corner easily.
Well, let me look. I think that's definitely pit stops for everyone in GT3. GT4 starting to cycle through now. About half of them have, half of them haven't.
Well, looking at the GT4 field, we've got our consistent battle here between Bueller and Mo Islam in that AOD Racing purple car. Bueller is now about as close as he has been in this race, certainly the last 10 minutes or so, to Mo. And both of these cars got to be getting pretty close to the end of their fuel windows, so interesting to see if either one has managed to save any bit as they head into the arena section, did we say?
I don't know anymore, man.
The Sachs hairpin, anyway. And
oh no, that's stadium. Seriously, dude, in Australia, right? There used to be before.
It's from Mo Islam.
So it is almost a touchy minute there. There used to be a stadium called Telstra Dome in Melbourne. Well, simultaneously there was a stadium in Sydney called Telstra Stadium. Anyway,
that's
useless trivia. I know.
I wouldn't know what to do with that. Either way, another close battle out on track is between Dylan Rizal and Marcus Prasang. Doing my best. Prasang having taken over that direct esports car at the last pit stop. The two of them are now very close together. And it did look like Rizal was going to take a move, make a move down into the hairpin there. He backed out a bit at the last moment. And gets in pretty hot as actually Randall McGrew comes through, trying to put a lap on these guys, I believe. Yeah, that would be about right. That's our leader in the GT4 class coming up on these guys. Perhaps explains the wide line that Dylan took the last time by there.
Yeah, no pit stop yet from Randall McGrew. You have to think it's going to be soon-ish. From the numbers we expect. That's why he's got a bunch of guys in his way that haven't, that have made their stop already. Crew, is this a tight line? That looks like pit in to me, and it is for your GT4 leader.
Mark McCormick about halfway down the Parabolica. We'll likely be seeing that on his timing screen.
Or hearing the pit entry alarm from all the way over there.
Seems likely. Either way, this will have to be a fast one for him to make up some ground.
So the Genesis teammates, Jason Gotter hasn't pitted yet. Carlos Villa hasn't pitted yet, and Alex Bueller hasn't pitted yet. That's 3 GT4s at the moment. McGrew took fuel, but no tyres there. That thing was never up on the tracks, was it? That's interesting because if you do 30 seconds of fuel, you get tyres for free in GT4. So I'm surprised to see them not do that. It means he comes out quite a bit in front of sort of fast racing. In fact,
I mean,
bad stop for sort of fast racing.
Yeah, on the other hand, there might actually be something to that because he's going to come out on warm tires first, but also he didn't seem to have dropped that much pace by the end there. In fact, some of his fastest laps were on the second half of that stint, so I wondered if maybe he's got something here, and those tires have a little bit more in them than what you and I are thinking. Because if you can save yourself the cold tire laps without losing anything at the end of the stint, you might as well, Well, you got to think that last stop is going to be a doozy, because you're going to want tires, but you're not going to be able to get them.
Well, it's different, that's for sure.
Yeah, curious strategy. And these GT4 cars don't usually do multi-stop races like this, so not typically anyway. So it'll be interesting. There's something there.
Carlos Villa is going to find his pit stall, but the HJ Anime Boogaloo is going to continue. Carlos Villa decides, I'll take 4 tyres, please.
Yeah. And HJ Anime Boogaloo decides not to punt the McLaren in front of him that was stopped on the apex. That's Jason Gotta. That gave him a bit of a brake check. See. Looks like Gotta's driving away, though. That McLaren real slippery in a straight line until Bueller pulls up behind him. In the corners. And Bueller leading the race with that last guy diving into the pits.
So I think we're seeing some variation amongst GT4 because of their big, wide fuel window. There's a few that I think, like the Genesis SimSport 039 and Hugh Jass Cup with Antonio Alvarez, where they only took enough fuel at the first stop to cover taking tyres or didn't take tyres. And then they're setting themselves up for a longer stop later on, whereas all of these 55-second pit stops from sort of fast racing, AOD Racing Purple, Carlos Villa we just saw at Direct Esports, etc., as here he finally comes onto the lane. All of those, I think, they've just completely filled the tank at the first stop, and they're heading for quite a short stop at the last one.
And to be honest, Bueller has almost done enough here. I mean, a minute... Or what? Just an hour and 11. I mean, if he saves just a smidge extra in this second stint, he could almost go on one stop. So that might be something that's coming into play here too, depending on how long this service ends up being. Got to assume that he goes full tank fuel, right? So all kinds of fuel strategy coming out from the different GT4 teams here.
It'll be funny if he does it.
I will love it if he does it. Though I'm not convinced that it'll be faster than McCormick and it was McCormick and who was that up at the front before? McGrew. There you go.
It was double Mac.
Sure, that.
Return of the Mac attack.
Either way, all that in the pits has led to a well and truly jumbled GT4 field, so we're going to have to see how that all shakes out. once these guys all get a few laps circulating again and straighten out their positions.
It's interesting. Bueller returns to the race right behind Carlos Villa. It will be cold tyres at the moment for Bueller, but it shouldn't take too long to get them going. I think this has been a good pit stop window for Villa. I thought he was behind Bueller and Mo Islam and all of them, but he's taken full service and now he's in front of Bueller.
Well, and he was setting some real fast, consistent laps there. Like leading up to that pit stop, I think looks like he ran about 10, 47, 47.5, 47.8 kind of laps in a row, which is right on pace with the pointy end of the field. So he was really consistent in the second half of that stint, and it might just have been enough, combined with a particularly good pit entry to leapfrog Bueller there. Though if Bueller's strategy is what I think it is, this might actually be perfect for Bueller, because if you can get that little extra lift and coast from being able to draft on the straightaways, that could be all the difference here. And checking back in on the GT3 field, we still have Miguel Vigo leading by about 5 seconds over Jeff Tyler, and that lead sort of slowly creeping upward, closer to 5.5 than 4.5 as it was before. Jeff Tyler in second place has inherited that position after overtaking Thomas Hinds in that Sim Racing Channel BMW. And both of them are contending with a bit of lap traffic, both in the form of a GT3, that's Dustin Gilliland, as well as Randall McGrew in that Genesis Sim Sport car, who, after pit cycles, is back to the lead of GT4. And then a few more seconds back behind them, you've got that PG13 racing car, about 30 seconds behind the podium contenders right now. Though hard to say exactly if that's a strategy gap or if that's a pace gap, as the last 5 laps for both cases seem to be pretty similar. Behind that, you've got Owen Farrell in the 5th place AOD Racing White car, having a good time, doing some laps. And then sort of distantly behind him, that Ronin SimSport Academy car piloted by Dustin Gilliland and Dale Reed. So 5 GT3 competitors remaining on the lead lap, and 3 of them in tight contention for the podium at this point in the race. And GT4 field has also started to shake itself out. Randall McGrew, of course, leading, as I mentioned. Antonio Alvarez, after his stop there, that was a pretty short one. He's up in second place, splitting Mark McCormick off from McGrew. So McCormick now in third place. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Black in fourth with Carlos Villa. Followed by HJ Anime Boogaloo. And it doesn't look like Bueller's been able to keep pace with him after coming out of the pits. So that could have some implications later on. It does look like, though, that Bueller has managed to finally overtake Mo Islam, thanks to that pit stop, after Mo Islam in that purple McLaren, number 86, had a slightly longer stop than Bueller. Those two were going back and forth for a long time, though. Actually, a very slightly shorter stop by the looks of things from Mo Islam, but Bueller made it up, whether on the outlap or somewhere there. He's got a few seconds gap. Behind them, it's the Direct Esports car with Marcus Persang at the wheel. And actually, correct myself there, that's actually the GTSRL car being piloted by Dylan Reisel, who has recently overtaken Marcus Persang at this lap. And both of them are followed by Gio Romano, who's actually making up some ground after taking over from Alex Albert a little bit earlier there.
Solid recap. Let's go to some wide shots, maybe some in-car something as we take a commentary break, and then we'll come back in the second half of the HJ Hockenheim GT Challenge. David and Devon will be back in a minute as coverage continues of our event. Well, we are back at Hockenheim for the HJ Hockenheim GT Challenge. 2.5 hours of racing is actually flying by as we're about to get close towards an hour and a half to go. Sorry, an hour to go. Other things on my mind. One of those things on my mind is that we have got Dominic Dernenberg from AOD Racing. Welcome. How's it going for you guys?
Well, it's going pretty good. Fun Friday night here with Hugh Jass. It's our second race with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spread across, you and your teammates across both categories. Looks like yourself and your teammates have had a little bit more excitement in GT4 though.
Yeah, it was an interesting start. Kind of missed the start of the race. So we took that, as a challenge upon ourselves, and we had some good battles at the start. Couple mistakes here and there, but other than that, it's been pretty good.
What about this track, Hockenheimring? I think it looks quite good. I think the track limits are reasonably well defined. Can't help but notice there's a bit of a landmine in pit lane though.
I mean, Hockenheim is a classic racetrack. Whenever they announced that it was coming to iRacing, I was really excited. I used to race it a lot on the Formula One games and such, but I think it does really well for GT racing. I'm really happy with how relaxed some of the track limits are. I think it really improves the racing around here. But I have noticed that landmine in pit lane too.
What's the story with the ventilation on the front of the AOD Racing white Porsche?
Well, I am just seeing that. That's an unapproved aerodynamic change. I'll have to check in with the driver and see what the theory behind that is.
Oh yeah, that is actually quite recent. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's just an attempt to reduce some weight here to catch up to the field.
Good stuff. Yeah, it looks like you got a little bit loose on the exit of turn one there, and easy enough to do. What was the other race that you joined us for?
The last race that we joined you guys for was
VIR 240.
The Dallara LMP2, and when the Corvette came out at I think it was at VIR. I think we did that.
Yeah,
that was an exciting race. The whole team was excited when they announced both of those cars. We have a lot of Corvette fans and obviously prototype fans. So when those cars came out, we were really excited to go test them out on that first week.
Just checking back in on the race for a quick second here. Jordan Fisher has taken the wheel from Rando McGrew in that formerly leading Genesis SimSport car. So that's a pretty big change there. See what Jordan Fisher's got as we continue on. A few interesting pit strategies going on in GT4 today. What have you guys kind of got on the table, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we did notice that the tires on these cars drop off dramatically. I would say that has to do with the fact that these cars do typically run more in a sprint race type format, and the race session was really hot when we started. So we decided to pit a little bit early, get the fresh tires on, and see if we can get an advantage on track later on in the race.
Nice, good stuff. We've got the whole gamut here. I don't know if you've been able to keep up with all the goings on in the pit lane, but it looks like we've got some one-stoppers or aspiring one-stoppers. We got a lot of guys doing full service and tires every time, and then a few guys that are even trying to do note tires or, just little oddball sort of amounts of fuel to cover the tires, all kinds of stuff.
It should be an interesting end to the race, because I know there was a team that pitted really early on, which we thought was kind of interesting, but it does kind of level out the fuel stints, which might help them with the tires overall. We're just kind of hoping that by doing this, we were able to make the last stint just a little bit longer to get better stability out of the fuel load too, because that affects this car a lot.
I'm not going to ask you to play favorites, but who's gonna get a better result for the team Mo in GT4 or Owen in GT3?
Owen's doing a really solid race here right now. I think he's got a pretty good position in the field there right now, but I wouldn't put it past Mo to really step it up here in the late stage of the race and catch a couple of these guys.
Well, thank you so much for roping some of your teammates in to come race with us. Thanks for also finding the time out of the car to chat with us. And I hope we can make some future events that are equally tempting to you guys.
Absolutely. We're always up for these fun races. You guys do a really good job putting them on, and all of us enjoy it. So thank you very much.
And if we're lucky going forward, we can get back into our week 13 time slot instead of having to delay because we don't know what tracks and cars are actually coming.
Yeah, it's exciting when you don't know what's coming, but it's also good to be able to plan some of these things once in a while.
Well, best of luck to you, especially to your teammate Florian there as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, Hans, it appears
he was nice. Let's have him back again.
Yeah, absolutely. And he appears to have dropped a little bit of knowledge, and we're seeing some more pop up in the chat here. So it sounds like these GT4 cars like to eat their tires. So that will certainly be another factor for some of these guys that have decided to do either the tires on the first stop. Maybe they have to go again. And actually, we're seeing another GT4 car there. That was Gio Romano in the Maca HJ car hitting the pit lane. But we're likely going to have to see maybe a second set of tires for some of these guys. Otherwise, they'll face the consequences in the second half of this race.
Does sound like going 90 minutes isn't quite the way to do it. And I think for Romano there, we're seeing he was starting to catch the battle between GTSRL and Direct Esports, and those two bumped a bit in the hairpin at the far end of the track. So he's decided, let's get this second stop out of the way a little bit early, get on our new tires a bit early. And then Romano will be one of a couple cars field to get to the end. It looks like Cullis Villa is the other. And we also saw that second stop from the Genesis 039, didn't we? So we're starting to see a couple cars that are going to get to the end. Sim Racing Channel, Thomas Hinds might be one of them as well. We saw him on pit lane. Now that we're within the final hour of the race, I'm feeling in a real charitable mood here as well, because we can get Giovanni Romano's teammate on the line. We've given him absolutely no heads up on this one. Alex Albert, are you with us, buddy?
Hey, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well. You drove the opening stint in 337, and now looks like age has made way for beauty, and Gio's doing an all right job.
Yeah, Gio, he's carrying the team this week for this race. A little bit stronger pace. I didn't quite have the pace I'd like to see there in the early part of the race. I was going to try to hang around with the pack and maybe just see how that worked out for us, but we got turned around early on, and from that point forward, it was tough, and so just tried to run our schedule, broke the race into thirds, and as you can see, we just did our final stop here. We actually stopped a little bit early. We caught that traffic and thought it would be best to go ahead and dip out. There was a three-way battle going on, but yeah, pretty good run for us. Maybe won't get the finish that we want, but yeah, still glad to have a good time with my co-champion Gio. We recently won a championship in a endurance racing league, the IVRA, and we're just kind of having a good time and celebrating with this little fun run here.
You got some juicy goss for us on the McLaren. I want to know, the people want to know, how's it drive compared to some of the other GT4 cars? What's quirky? What's holding up?
I like it. I think that it's probably still a little down on the Porsche, but I was having fun driving it. I think I like it better than the BMW that we were driving in the aforementioned championship effort. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I feel like the brakes could be better, but I think the same thing about the others. So Gio, he's much more experienced in the GT4, so I lean on him for advice and just what's normal. And he said that the tire wear is more than we would see in the past. I was pretty rough on him there in that first stint, and those kind of wear rates would have been unheard of, even with a big ape like me behind the wheel.
Interesting to hear. Good luck, and we'll catch you around, man.
All right, yeah, thanks.
Unless Devin needed to pick your brain.
Yeah, how you doing, bud?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Enjoying the race. I'm trying to. I'm going to continue my line of questioning that I started with the other guy. We're seeing a lot of different pit strategies here in the GT4 field. Anything that you've noticed, picked up on? Any comments on yours?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can tell you what we're doing because we've made our bet at this point. But we started full tanks, and then we had planned to take an equal amount during both stops, and we were going to take tires each time as well because we think they're worth it for the difference. I think if some of these, if there were yellows in this race and there was maybe something where it'd be advantageous to stay out and then maybe splash at the end, it would be interesting to see, about tires. But I think everyone will be taking them here, but maybe not. Some of the guys you can get all but about 20 minutes of the race in. So you can get 20 minutes to the finish if you go full tank. But then, I guess it might not be worth taking tires at that point. I don't know. So it'll be pretty exciting. I think most people will kind of split it up, though, like we did, and try to do 3 relatively even stints.
I was particularly interested to know if you could comment on what the HJ Anime Boogaloo car is doing. It looked to me like he pushed it all the way out to an hour and 10, an hour and 11, maybe into the race, almost like he might be trying for the one stop. Is that something that he had mentioned?
No, I think he said he was just following the other cars around. He hadn't really thought about passing them. So, as I asked him if he was ever going to pass the purple and white car when he followed them for many laps, and he said he hadn't thought about it. He was just following. So it looks like he's got around them now and building a bit of a gap. I think the top 2 though kind of got away, if I'm right. It looks like they've got a bit of a gap on the Boogaloo. So anything can still happen. He's a quick driver. Maybe he'll be one to go no tires on that last stop. It's certainly possible. Mr. Bueller's known not to be scared to try new things.
Yeah, probably knowing a little bit better for smoking those tires though than he is for saving them. But anyways, thanks for the insight, and thanks for coming out and joining us in the booth.
Yep. Thanks. Anytime, whatever you guys need. So thanks for the broadcast, and we'll talk to you after the race, hopefully.
Cheers. And now we'll put Alex back where we found him. Got a bit of word that the Genesis SimSport 039 might have had a little issue. They definitely had a lap that was about 10 seconds off. Not all that long ago. Yeah, it looks like it would be in the 3rd lap in the car for Jordan Fisher, who's driving now. They might have lost a little bit of time. So that could be key, because you remember how close they were going back and forth with sort of fast racing. That 10 seconds could be a little bit make or break. And in fact, he's now behind Carlos Villa, who's fueled to get to the end. So
yeah, that was a pretty significant hit, and he got pretty lucky to get away with not a lot of damage. We didn't catch it on the broadcast, but he got loose on the exit of that Mobil 1 right-hander that that kind of forces you out onto the gravel if you overcook it a little bit, and bounced off the tire wall a couple of times before rejoining. Luckily for him, the car somehow seems to have gotten away more or less unscathed, maybe a little wrinkle in one of the fenders there, but either way, that will have definitely put a damper on their hopes and dreams of winning this race after
Stop the road. Direct Esports have gotten ahead of GTSRL because those two just kept on going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the GT3 leader getting involved, making some passes on traffic in places we hadn't seen before. Maybe GTSRL are lined up to try to take that one back. Not quite going to work, I don't think.
Speaking of the lead of the GT3s, Jeff Tyler's dropped suddenly back, and that's because he's taking a pit stop, which we got to assume is the last pit stop for him of the race. So about 50 seconds on the lane that time.
Whoa, here's a look up at the GT4s. Don't always see that. That look in turn 2. But Prasang still holds ahead to the result. Had a dive, didn't work, but no contact made. Is he going to do the same again at the hairpin? They got a bit of GT3 traffic coming as well, which really likes to outbrake these guys. Really likes to outbrake these guys. Parks it at the middle, and that's where the GT3 and the GT4 cars are the same speed, right at the apex of the hairpin there.
That was a real shame how that worked out for Dylan Rizal there, because he it looked like if that GT3 car had gone, he would have had a nice run on the McLaren, but the GT3 car seemed to have lost track of the McLaren beside him and kind of hesitated before getting back on the gas. He might still get his chance though with that next BMW of Thomas Hinds coming by. See if he ends up compromising. He takes the inside line. Nice guy. It does force Prasang wide.
And they're close once again.
These two have been kind of glued together all race. When they get out of the car, I think they're gonna be high-fiving, having had a good time.
Notice they like to take different lines through the drag strip at the end. I think Prasang treats it more like 2 corners, and you see Rizal making one big sweeping movement out of both of them. The result is Rizal gets a lot closer in the middle of the 2 corners, but then Prasang still seems to get a good exit. Here's a dive though. He's going to get it stopped at the inside. Prasang sees it coming a long way ahead. And that's what that hairpin's for.
Yeah. Like I said, the best passing opportunity on the track, and he makes quick use of that one.
Baver's getting return shoes on the other foot now in the arena before the stadium.
And in between on the short shoot, they're 2x2. Or 2 wide at least.
This is tough for Prasang because he's in front but around the outside. Oh, don't touch, guys. They got close.
Yeah, that's a pretty sensitive part of the track to get some contact there. That could have ended real badly.
All the while, the 2 GT4 cars behind are catching them as well. So Villa and Fisher are catching those 2 that are battling. GT4 is where the party's at.
Yeah, this is about to be a 4-way battle. Both Fisher and Villa are faster than the guys ahead. But Fisher hasn't been able to find his way around Villa yet since that little off that we talked about. So it will be very important, I gotta say, how they manage to get around these 2 guys ahead. We've just gotten an update from the 913 Florian Neidl from the team that removing the hood does not improve the overall pace of the car. So the weight saving's not worth it in this case.
A shame. Or GT4 side by side. Those two Porsches behind are getting so much closer though. The more this goes on. Good stuff from Rizal to defend. Sang likes to get to the inside for this next corner. He's got a great run again. Ay.
This time Rizal says no thank you. And decides to take the defensive line and then the defensive line as they head into the shutdown there for the drag strip.
Smart to not to try to overtake here. Well, it's all four together and being caught by that Ronin Academy Lamborghini as well. Just pops out of the carousel there for Dylan Rizal.
Oh, why not? 4 guys for a position ahead of you. Sure, let's all lap all of them.
It is on like Donkey Kong.
Can he get them all in one straight?
Don't think so. He's going to try. He's going to try. That's no good for Dylan Rizal. No good at all. They're going to come together in turn 1. And the GT3's facing the wrong way, and Dylan Rizal loses out all of these positions.
The picture and Carlos Vila still in the same order. 1 spot higher up than they were before. Ooh, that was spicy.
Sure was. Not great for the Lamborghini, who's now lost a position to Dale Breed. Not great for Rizal either.
Rizal's trying to line up that move in the braking zone, but the Porsche seems to have a little bit more for him there. But both of these Porsches are being held up a little bit by Marcus at this point, so it might still be within range if you're Dylan to make some sort of move. Ooh, and he locks up the rears and drifts it around that corner. Gives up a little bit on the exit. Big bump there from Jordan Fisher. Takes the whole curb. Defensive line from Marcus. Got to compromise the exit, though. Makes...
Get around here in the stadium. So Villa all the way around the outside. I don't think there's as much grip around the outside as the inside, but what do I know? He's done it around the outside there of the hairpin.
Really good stuff from Jordan Fisher to make that move following stick, because Marcus made a move like he wanted to close the door. Oh, sliding up ahead. Villa was on that. Traction control contact there between Jordan, and both of them give up a lot of momentum to Marcus, who's making a move back up the inside. It looked like Rizal wanted to make the move too. Takes the whole curb. And both of them use all the runoff.
Oh, they're getting crazy.
That's what you love to see.
Also a little bit of contact between 66 and 100, who are now right in the background of this again. He's going to try, Dustin Gilliland's going to go for this one again, try to get all 4 in one move. I think it's a lot easier to do here than it was on the pit straight. He is really trying to bomb his way around. They all park on the apex here though, and a bit more contact again. Around again.
And Villa made contact with Gilliland there, but then so did Fisher with Marcus.
No calm in the cockpit for Dustin Gilliland.
Oh no, that's Fisher around, and Fisher puts it backs it into the wall. Oh no, and that's just the 039. That race has gone from good to bad in a few incidents. It looks like there was actually some contact there from Dylan Rizal in that McLaren too, maybe not realizing, exactly where the front end of that long McLaren nose was. But either way, it makes contact, and that's Fisher around and slowed down for sure.
Not great. plenty of rubbing panels and that from those guys in those last couple of laps, and it's a shame to see it.
So while all of that was going on, Alvarez actually snuck in Antonio in 138 in the Hugh Jass car there. He managed to sneak in a pit stop and come out ahead of those guys. So he's managed to come out significantly ahead of Carlos Vila, who looked to be a favorite after that early stop. And you got to think that Mark McCormick's just patting himself on the back at this point, because with Fisher having those issues, that battle that he was having with McGrew looks like it might very well have been sorted. And so the leader of GT4, McCormick, lets the leader in GT3, Vigo, by, and looks like it'll be a very comfortable run to the finish for him, barring any sort of calamity on his end.
As much fun as it was to watch, it does seem like avoiding the traffic is the way to have gone on the strategy in GT4 today, because for all four of those guys, it's checked them up. It's lost a bunch of time.
And as we check in on Alex Buehler, we see him seeing if there's once again some more grip out on that drag strip. But he is probably the only one in GT4 that really has a chance to play spoiler. If he can find some way to make this extra long fuel run work out for himself. And I am hearing a little bit of lift. Not a whole bunch, but a little bit of lift and coast. So, might be something there, but currently running second with Mo Islam behind in third. However, both of them are followed by Antonio Alvarez in the Hugh Jass blue and yellow car, who has done his final pit stop. And so he will likely be the one inheriting second place once all is said and done. Remains to be seen, though. Still about 40 minutes left in this race.
On the way into the far hairpin, I didn't hear any lift and coast out of Buehler, though. Didn't seem like there was much of any attempt to save.
Well, we'll have to see when we get down to the end. Looking back towards our GT3 field for a moment, Jeff Tyler is in third place, but getting a little bit closer lap by lap to that PG-13 racing car, currently piloted by Paul Gibson. He's been averaging about 0.3 of a second faster than Paul over the last few laps, though Paul is contending with some traffic right now, gets really checked up by Antonio. And he'll have to make quick work of him here. But that battle looks like it could be on. And just
keep in mind, Jeff's made his final stop, and we still got one more stop for the leading geodesic Lamborghini and for this BMW from PG-13. So what could happen is Jeff Tyler catches the BMW and then loses a lot of time that he can't afford to lose to leader Vigo.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I was elsewhere on the track, and I did just hear that alarm go off for the pit lane, and Dylan Reisel in that 39 GTS RL car has come to the pit lane, and it looks like is taking his final stop. And that does look like tires and fuel for him to get to the end here. Back out on track, though, Jeff Tyler, follow along with PG-13.
So PG-13 did 35 laps in the opening stint. Now on their second stint, they've done 31 so far. So I think, 3-4 more laps, then the BMW has to pit. Same for the leading geodesic car.
Mm-hmm. And that geodesic car is running fast out there. I mean, last time by a 38.7, and his best lap of the race was a 38.6. So he's definitely, despite the quiet race he's having, he has not slowed down one bit out there, and is making Jeff work for it if he wants to have any shot at catching up. This final service, though, is going to be really important for these two.
Yeah, speed's good for Vigo. It's looking good for him at the moment, as long as it is a trouble-free final stop. Our most exciting GT4 battle, that was Direct Esports and GT SRL, seen GT SRL pit last lap and sang Direct Esports pit this lap. Are they going to be reunited once again for the final 35 minutes here?
Have to see. SRL did seem to have a slightly longer trip, I think. Sorry, slightly... no, I'm all kinds of confused. Slightly longer, about 5 seconds longer than Marcus did here. So that might give Marcus a little bit of breathing room. And Marcus is actually currently being overtaken by the leader, or at least being chased by the leader of GT4. That's Mark McCormick, and that's So Fast Racing, sort of fast racing. Might have to change it to So Fast Racing if he keeps this up, though.
Well, there we go. That was pretty easy. Probably helped by cold tyres for Chris Angle, so he just didn't want to get in the way of the leader.
And looking a little deeper into the GT4 field, we've got Antonio Alvarez catching up quickly to the AOD Racing Purple car piloted by Mo Islam. And the two of them are getting ever closer. Of course, Antonio has made his final pit stop, and I don't believe that the AOD Racing car has. Only one stop in the books for him so far. Either way,
there.
Yeah, either way, Antonio is now sort of trying to make up some ground. A hard thing to do on this big straightaway. McLaren seems to have a little bit of an advantage, even in the slipstream. But the Porsche really good in the corners and in the brakes, as he evidences here. And both of them decide outside of the red curb is the fast way around that corner.
Oh, they did that in like the first 10 minutes, remember, these two. They were racing against each other. And
I just figured that was because they were side by side, not because they were using all of the paved surface. Oh!
There's a mistake from Mo Islam. Makes it very easy for Antonio Alvarez there. I think that's one of the things I've been hearing about the McLaren, is that the feeling on the brakes with the ABS isn't as good as some of the other GT4 cars. Maybe that's what he had there. Car got squirrely on the ABS, and he maybe didn't feel it until he started turning into the corner and then realized, oh, nope, that's going to spin, and he had to go wide, is basically what I think we saw there.
That's what it kind of looked like. And I did notice, too, while I was driving it, that the rear end does like to lock up on you sort of unexpectedly. Jumping back with the GT3 field, Jeff Tyler is making a move on PG13 Racing here as they head through turn number 3. Trying to anyways. PG13 closes the door. Jeff not likely to want to be denied, though, here. As we mentioned, he is battling, trying to make up some time on the leader.
Yep, sure is. Looks for the inside. And he's going to send it in there. And in the end, PG13 go a little deep. So that's back up into second place for Jeff Tyler. 1 minute 5 seconds behind Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing, who still need one more pit stop. But Jeff's pit stop was 50 seconds pit in to pit out, so the delta was probably even a little bit less than that. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I don't know exactly the fuel strategy that Miguel's on. I'm assuming just full fuel, but either way, we should expect him in the pits in the next 2 laps or so. So we'll get to know the answer to that pretty quickly. either way, PG-13 Racing has decided that they're done with this stint, and Paul Gibson is headed to the pits, entering the lane this time.
Okay, there's a drain here, and every time they pass that drain, it looks like there's a bit of a landmine there in pit lane. All right, that's one to keep an eye on. Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that myself, but it does look like it. Ooh, and Mo Islam's actually had a bit of an ordeal here down into the hairpin. We'll have to go back and check out what that was, but he was facing the wrong way on the apex after being really close to Dylan Riziol and Gio Romano that last time. Yeah, and it looks like he just got a little out of shape while he was following those guys on the way into the hairpin. Maybe got it a little too deep, and then we saw a little bit more of those rear tires going away for him.
It's his outlap. So if he changed them, they're cold, and I think he did change them from the amount of time in the stop.
That does make some sense. That's going to cost him though. So that means that I believe that's the Hugh Jass McLaren, piloted by Gio Romano, is going to be secure for a little bit longer, albeit with the GTS RL car close behind him. And both of them have a few GT4 cars stacking up behind them, or ahead of them. Looks like Marcus Persang and Dominic Dernenberg. Dernenberg is back in the car after joining us in the booth a little bit earlier.
And you know what he's got?
No hood.
No, a brand new one.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, once you figure it out, once you test it, you got to go back if it's not working, right?
Yeah, it's A/B testing or whatever. Yeah.
So we said
Just
last time we
reevaluating the baseline.
Yeah. So we said last time we zip tied a roll bar to the rear sway bar because the big one wasn't stiff enough, so you need two. Make it more stiffer.
It's big Vigo on the lane from the lead. This has got to be flawless for him to rejoin in the race lead. Otherwise, he might suffer the indignity of letting Jeff Tyler win.
Ooh, that would be daggers for just about anyone.
Fuel goes in. Meanwhile, Tyler is still between the arena and the stadium.
Yeah, this feels almost comfortable.
Oh, it feels quite comfortable for Vigo. He's on his way out of the pit lane real easy. Wait for that to adjust, but that looks near enough a 15-second lead to me. Got to have both of them hit a timing loop before I can tell you with more confidence. But the fact that Vigo's already through turn 2, turn 3, and Jeff Tyler's only hitting the start-finish line now, it's even more than that. It's 24 seconds or so.
Yeah, it does look like Jeff Tyler suffered a little bit during that last section. And he still has a fair bit of traffic to go by as he makes his move on 2 GT4s in that braking zone. And a few more up ahead of him.
Not great for our buddy Jeff. I think that early stop where he put more fuel in the car without taking tyres, maybe it got him out of some traffic at the moment, like in the time, but probably not great to be carrying the extra weight of the fuel earlier than he needed to, and therefore wearing out the tyres a little more.
Well, and I haven't checked in on the balance of the GT3 cars lately, but that Lamborghini certainly seems to have some pace all the way through the stint, running, almost 0.5 of a second faster on his fastest lap relative to where Jeff has been over the course of this race. So that one looks pretty settled. The last step on the podium, though, isn't necessarily. Thomas Hinz is only about 3 seconds behind that PG-13 racing car of Paul Gibson after they've come out of the pits. And so PG-13 and Sim Racing Channel will be a battle that we have to keep an eye out on. And the next closest battle on the track is the one between Gio and GTSRL. Oh, and who's that just ahead of them? The AOD Racing White car. Oh no, I've jinxed him. Commentator's curse. Dominic Dernenberg puts it into the wall on the exit of turn number 4. Must have gotten excited because he heard me calling him out. Either way, Gio is fending off a dive here from Dylan Rizzle, going around the outside, or at least trying to. Goes very, very deep on the way into that corner though. See if he's able to get a run on the way into this next section here.
Looks pretty good for the HJ Macca.
Mm-hmm. Surprised though that Gio hasn't been able to get any separation yet. He seemed to catch and overtake pretty easily, but ever since then, Dylan's been right up behind him. Unable to shake him has been Gio. And a pretty good recovery drive for him so far. I believe he was in second to last or last in class after the first stop there, but has made up a lot of time.
That's a mistake.
Man, okay.
That's not good. Is that a slowdown? We're going to find out.
Yeah, gotta think so.
I think it's what scientists would describe as a little less than optimal. Trying to put the power out of the Sachs curve.
Apparently I've got the curse, so who should I use my third one on? Anyone else who want to see backed up for a better race?
Oh, you should say something about whether or not you think HJ Anime Boogaloo can get to the end.
I'm starting to think that that's pretty unlikely. I did spend a little bit of time watching him after my earlier theories, and you saying that there was no lift and coast going on, and I didn't see any either. So, barring something of a miracle, I got to think there's going to be a splash and dash on that car's future.
Brings great shame on my whole family.
Well, if you want to see anyone feel safe, you got to do it yourself, right?
Yeah. Be the lift and coast you want to see in the world. That's going to be a new poster on my wall.
Yeah, I like the sounds of that. But that will be interesting once or if he hits, because that should put him, depending on what the Delta looks like, that should put him right in the middle of that Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Black and the Antonio Alvarez HJ Cup car. So I'm thinking that there'll be some sort of battle for the back end of the podium there.
I'm thinking Live, Laugh, Lift as a poster, actually.
I'm thinking all of the above. That's my vote. Also ship one to me. Seriously, the walls are barren in here. I need some new wall art.
Yeah, make sure that when HJ Secret Santa rolls around that you make sure you let him know.
Will do.
It's not going to be me, obviously, but
as it stands, though, the closest battle on the track does appear to be the one between that Hugh Jass car piloted by Gio Romano, the 337, and the 39 of Dylan Rizal. And but we are. It looks like we're actually on boards with, or riding along with Hinz and Gibson here, who are still battling over third place in GT3.
Yeah, Paul Gibson, or as they know him in France, Gibson Les Paul.
I was gonna say, is he the guitar guy?
He could be the engine guy. He could be making those motors for the LMP2s. Those beautiful, beautiful 4.2 litre V8s.
Seems likely. Are you the Paul Gibson? You're getting called out in the chat now, Haynes. I think that tells you what.
Pit stop for that GT4 leader puts some of the other cars we were watching back onto the lead lap effectively, but he had a lot of time advantage over some of the cars we thought he was racing, like HJ Cup and that Genesis 039 that gave such great chase early in the race, and then the race has gone less than swimmingly.
Yeah, he's still able to maintain some pretty good pace with that car, but doesn't seem to have quite everything that it did before, that 039 car. And we're riding along with 138 Hugh Jass, it looks like. And we're going to see how he does relative to Mark McCormick. It looks like not very well, because McCormick is currently leaving the pits while Antonio crosses the start-finish line. So not an insurmountable gap should Mark have some sort of issues, but also not going to be much there for Antonio, barring some help from circumstance.
Well, 20 minutes to go from the Hockenheimring and HJ Hockenheim GT Challenge. And we were worried that maybe some of these battles would thin out a little bit, but there's still plenty for the final 20 minutes in GT4, in GT3.
Yeah, and we're watching one of those GT3 battles right now. Thomas Hinz has gotten right to the bumper of that PG-13 car. And looks to be starting to get a little bit racy with him now that he's closed the gap.
Yeah, he was like 2 seconds back for a long time, it seemed like, for like 5 or 6 laps, and just didn't close it down, and now he has closed it down. And there's still plenty of time.
Yeah, two pretty different pit strategies, though. Hinz in that sim racing car did pit about 10 laps earlier than, actually 13 laps earlier than Paul Gibson did in the first stint. And as a result, has been on his tires for a lot longer, though I believe we determined that Gibson actually didn't take tires on the second stop. So that could be a factor here as they head down towards the hairpin. And Hinz
has never been afraid of a big late braking maneuver at the hairpin here, so he's given it a red hot go, and I think he's done a pretty good job of it there up into third place.
And like we were talking, that might just be a case of Gibson suffering from not taking tires on that last stop.
Be part of it. I think they've just been on the different strategies, different parts of their journey, and Hinz was always gonna come back after making both of his pit stops on the earlier side. Ooh, check up here with AOD Racing Purple. You can tell Paul Gibson must have gotten into the traction control, because there's a characteristic sort of little wiggle these BMWs look like they do when you ask a bit too much of them. The traction control comes in and you can catch the slide, but it doesn't seem like it's the fastest way. They sort of just get the tail out a little bit, little wiggly.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I feel like I remember listening to an interview with Dave Cameron once when he was talking about a time where they discovered some undesired behavior or a bug they thought in their traction control that was actually just a bug in the real traction control software based on the way that it was implemented. Maybe I'm misattributing that though, but anyways, it's certainly something that can happen where you just get the car sliding a little bit and you can't get it to get out of the traction control and start going again. It's so frustrating. and I've been on the receiving end of that before.
Don't ruin a good story by trying to fact check yourself. It was good.
10-4.
It was a good story. It was a good story. Truthfulness be damned. Well, we got HJ Anime Boogaloo leading GT4, who is still going to need a pit stop, but I think everyone else, or almost everyone else out on track, have made all of their pit stops.
Yeah, the only exception to that rule is maybe that Genesis.
Oh, drama for Hinz. Drama for Hinz. He's gone and lost third place. Bit of a slide there in the stadium.
Yeah, quickly recovered, but that definitely cost him a fair bit.
Oh, we just got it on the curb there, and well, that's different to the traction control wiggle I was talking about, because that one went good and proper half the way round.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of traction control that can protect you from air underneath the tires. So it looks to be what happened there on the exit of that corner.
Well, good work undone with 15 minutes to go there.
Yeah, but still something left to play for these two.
Wow, track really cooling off. I've just seen your GT4 leader and second place both set their personal best laps of the race. In fact, I think Mark McCormick's just set the fastest GT4 lap of the race. He has.
Yeah, he's working hard. Bueller.
And then a 3-car battle. Direct Esports, Hugh Jass Macca, and GTS RL. That is all over a little bit deeper in class.
Yeah, it looks to me like that should be Hugh Jass Macca, 7th, 8th, 9th there.
And they're all going to get one more spot, because the 110 is making its final pit stop now. So the 3-car battle we had our eyes on all move up a rung on the ladder. Your favourite pit lane alarm once again, Devon?
Oof.
Maybe, seeing all those McLarens, maybe I should have enforced track limits today. Most people are not taking the mickey too hard.
I'm in the camp of, if it's paved, it's track. Don't give me asphalt on the runoff if you don't want me to use it, Sort of like those MX-5 Cup cars when they go to Coda.
Oh, sure.
Speaking of the GT4s, though, it looks like Gio's made a move there. Ooh, a little bit of contact on the exit of the hairpin there from Marcus as they switched from outside and inside to the other way around. But hasn't seemed to slow Gio down as he gets a run towards the next corner. But we do know that Marcus likes to make this move up the inside here. And he tries, but he doesn't try too hard. And Gio gets a little bit more space as they move through that corner. Gio certainly seems to have no issues with those red curbs.
Good for him. He's dragged the car up to about 6th or so.
Mm-hmm.
GT3 leader dices in. It's ought to be pretty smooth sailing for Miguel Vigo from here. With 12 minutes to go, he's got a 26-second lead over slow, washed-up Jeff Tyler.
Someone clip that. Get that highlight.
I know what I'm doing. And you saw that evidenced by the fact that he just waited behind one of the GT4 cars into turn one rather than diving it in there like we'd seen some others do under pressure. Third in GT3 though.
Third in GT3 is no longer the PG-13 of Paul Gibson because Thomas Ince has just overtaken him. Actually got him right into the hairpin that last time by. So despite that little spin, he's been able to track down Paul Gibson and make his way back past again in his first try. We'll see if he can keep the asphalt under the tires this time all the way to the end of the race.
Yeah, that'd be the optimal strategy. That'd help him bring that podium position home. And, well, actually, whoever of these two finished third, we'd have 3 manufacturers on the podium.
True.
Not going to be able to say the same about GT4, unfortunately, because our lone BMW in that class was one of our earlier retirements about 30 laps ago. Almost an hour ago. Yeah, 30 laps ago. Shame there, but we still could have. It kind of looks like Mark McCormick's race to lose in GT4 in his McLaren, but then the next two could be the Porsche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mark's definitely figured something out with this McLaren. He's flying around here, to be honest. But there is still a fair amount to be figured out because Alexander Buehler has just hit the pit lane.
No more fuel.
Disappointed his family, his friends, and the whole community by not running a one-stop race here today. But he'll take that splash of fuel and head back out on track very shortly.
It should be quick. He didn't go up on the jacks. He knows no tires. He knows it's fuel only. But 11 seconds. He's, well, touch and go whether he rejoins in third and if he can hold on to third. He's definitely behind now McCormick and Alvarez. He gets going. He is in third, but Carlos Villa is not far behind and has been pretty aggressive, been pretty good once he unleashes himself. 6 laps to go maybe for these guys. That could be a good battle. Who can get third?
Kind of bouncing around. Depends on how hard Miguel Vigo goes for these next few laps. Could be a trick too for some of these guys, depending on how they did their fuel numbers.
Got any broader thoughts about the Hockenheimring, Devon?
Never been Frankfurt, but feel like I'd probably make a stop if I could come down. Shame that getting a motorsport license in Germany is such pain. Otherwise, I might try and get some time on track.
Sort of lives a little bit in the shadow of the Nürburgring, doesn't it? You could be a fantastic track, but if you're in Germany, you're always second fiddle to the Nordschleife, the Green Hell.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a big DTM guy. Don't have, beyond Formula One coming here, I don't have a huge connection, like on a personal level, but in spending some time on the track in week 13, I was actually pleasantly surprised by how good the racing is. There's a lot of interesting corners and a lot of variation in the corners. And despite being a pretty flat track, it does a lot with the paved runoff and the sort of really precise driving that it demands from a driver.
True, there are some tracks that are good for Formula One, good for open wheel cars that aren't so great for GTs and touring cars, and there are some tracks that are amazing for GT and touring cars that then just don't work for Formula One or F3 or open wheelers or whatever. So this one might strike a bit of a balance.
Mm-hmm. You do need to, go take a look. It's a shame
Do
that
you
I
mean direct our attention?
No.
Oh,
I was
okay.
not going to speak about anything else on track. I was just going to say that I do maybe need to lodge a small protest with iRacing for not including the old Hockenheim layout. You know, the
Prasang
one,
has a slowdown. Prasang's got a slowdown. He's going to go 3 wide here with second place in GT3 and GTS RL, who end up a bit forced off the road. Wow. Ooh, and then they get close. Prasang cut too much at turn 1.
Wow. Rizal did not lift for a millisecond on the track out there. I thought he was going straight through him.
It's going to take a looky. Nearly 2.5 hours of racing, and these two cars, I think, have been near enough inseparable.
Yeah, and the two of them are being followed by Carl, who I don't think has gotten a sufficient mention on the broadcast yet. That's Justin Pereira in the Tentacle Raid car, and it's a unique little livery there. But it's chasing up on the guys ahead, who are battling for this final position. And I think that's the 7th and 8th spot that they're fighting over, but they've been fighting over it the whole race, it seems like. Might not be shortly, though. Dylan takes even more dirt than Marcus did that time. Let's see how that works out for them as they head out.
Taking a look, these two went fuel only at their last stop, so they are really getting to the end of a long run on their tires. And I think there's a couple times you can kind of tell those tires have had their best day, and then their twilight, and then a little after that is maybe where they are right now.
Owen Farrell, car number 939, looks like he's had some sort of calamity.
How many spare hoods do AOD have to bring to a race weekend?
I would have thought that once he figured it out, it didn't work in the GT4, he would have, might not have tried it on the GT3, but
that's a new and unique place to have a crash as well, in the chute between arena and stadium.
Well, and I think it does deserve a count here. So we got into the wall, and that's a 1, 2, 3. 3-point turn to get it around. Okay, I thought it was closer to 5. But either way, that's a shame for him, and he'll be heading back to the pits. Real bummer to end the race like that after 3, dang near 2.5 hours of consistent racing from Owen.
Yeah, just really jumped that curb in a nasty way, and then you can see when the car lands, it's on that slippery AstroTurf, which, sometimes you can get away with using a little bit of it to open up your line. And the car's sliding on it, it's even more slippery than the road, and that's how he ended up going nose first into the barrier. Bonk. And not a lot of camera coverage that far off the track as well, as we discovered.
And we are getting confirmation from AOD that they've used up all the hoods. There are, I repeat, no more hoods. So Owen will be like that till the end of the race.
I want to say, help them out. If you want to sponsor this team, get in touch. But unfortunately, I don't think anyone's going to be taking up sponsoring their hoods. All the coverage you miss out on.
I bet you'd get a good shot from the interior once in a while when it flips up. Either way, sort of fast racing, setting the pace of the field in the GT4s. Antonio Alvarez in second place. And actually within visual range of that HJ Anime Boogaloo car. But pretty good amount of separation between Bueller and that Boogaloo car and the fourth place car, Carlos Villa. So things looking pretty sorted on the podium of GT4.
Yeah, Antonio's tires are 22 laps old in second, but Bueller's tires in third are 42 22 laps, or the full extra 20 laps, which is a lot for the GT4 cars we've learned today. That's why we do these.
And Bueller's just been overtaken by Miguel Vigo, who himself is in a quite comfortable position at this point. 28 seconds ahead of Jeff Tyler. And the third step on the podium in GT3, Paul Gibson and SimRacing Channel. That's Thomas Hims in the SimRacing Channel car. Both of those guys seem to be a few seconds apart here, so pretty quiet on the podium over there too. We'll have to go looking for which battles will follow on this final lap.
I mean, you could still have Owen Farrell, who is 4 seconds off pace, just 7 seconds ahead of XCM, or he might just hold on. For sixth there, because Miguel Vigo is starting the final lap of the race right now. 20 seconds left on the clock as he crosses the line. What about that GT4 battle, Devin?
Well, I'm watching Dylan Rizzo and Marcus Persang here, and if it's been anything like the last 2.5 hours, this next minute and a half ought to be pretty sweet. So these two are going to keep battling. Looks like Rizzo's trying to move up the inside, getting real close. Hops curb. Got to get the power down. Gives up a little bit, heading onto this straight. Crucially, hooks the tire on the inside of that curb. I think that's the move if you want your pace through there. Gets real tight. Both of them try out the dirty side of the track there.
Not the first time they've been out there as well.
Yeah, I think if this were real life, there'd be a heck of a hole there in the sand at this point.
I've seen that happen at many a track. The dirt on the far side of the curb gets dug down until eventually they got to put it back.
And repave the hole that's been dug in the track too. Either way, Dylan Rizzo falling down the straight. First turn, this was a point where Marcus made a mistake. Rizzo gets the better run. Certainly, and he's going to have a look down here into turn number 2. On the brakes late, this is Rizzo's specialty. And he takes the spot from Marcus. We'll see if Marcus can make the run back down this next straightaway. Tight battle here.
But GT3 leader Miguel Vigo for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing is coming through the final corner, and he is going to take the checkered flag. And has he just put that AOD car a lap down? But a good run from him, fending off Jeff Tyler, out-racing him, out-pacing him, and out-strategizing him.
Dylan Rizzo still holding on to that spot in GT4 there for Marcus Persang. Still very close between those two, though. And Marcus makes a move up the inside here into the Mercedes corner. Dylan tries the over-under, contact on the rear bumper that time. Gets a much better line, though, onto the back straight.
Inside for going into the stadium. He's going to have to go for it on the last lap. Surely there just isn't quite room. Is he going to look to the inside for the hairpin here? It's covered. Persang knows there's just one last sector. He's got to defend for it. No. That is too ambitious. But he had to go. He had to go for it on the last lap.
Yeah, and actually he's given up a spot there. That Mo Islam's car, that AOD Racing Purple car, has gotten the spot from Dylan Rizzo. So gave it his all, but did not make it in the end. That camber into that corner is really tricky.
I've learned the ABS is also tricky for the McLaren as well. Your GT4 leader still doing his last lap, and he's in the final sector. Mark McCormick, sort of fast racing. No problems, no dramas. He's going to take the win in GT4.
And Bueller having some fun.
Oh, no.
With Alvarez at the end of the straightaway there.
Keep it family friendly, guys. Well, what a race at Hockenheim. HJ Hockenheim GT Challenge. Yes, indeed. Everyone's taken the checkered flag now. Some celebrating in different ways to others, Devon.
Oh man, get the cameras off this. This is, oh my god, what is going on over here?
Oh no!
There's some SimSpeed stuff going on down there. But anyways, yeah, entertaining race today. A lot of different approaches.
McCormick's found how to turn off the traction control finally. He was parked quite a bit in the outfield of turn 1 for a while until he was able to burn him down. Results. I think it's time for our results after 150 minutes of the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg. Miguel Vigo is the winner, 29 seconds ahead of Jeff Tyler. Then the podium completed by Sim Racing Channel Thomas Hinz, PG13 Racing, Ronan Sim Sport Academy in 5th, AOD Racing, BMW White, Owen Farrell in 6th. Did nurse that car home and hold off Cross-Continental Motorsport. GT4 winner was Sort of Fast Racing with a podium completed by HJ Cup and HJ Anime Boogaloo. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Carlos Vela got close, I think, at the end there, but he will be 4th in class ahead of the Genesis SimSport 039, the HJ Macca Direct Esports, AOD Racing Purple, GTS RL Racing, Full Send Racing, Genesis SimSport 110, and Tentacle Grape AOD Racing White. Retirement for Disc Racing, Alpine Stars Geodesic 44, Orma Sim Racing Team, and Aaron Thacker, who drove 10 laps in the GT4 class.
That's what you love to see.
Well, yeah. Results after 2.5 hours, we can now go speak to some of those drivers we couldn't speak to during the race, particularly some of the one driver efforts. And we have the GT3 winner, Miguel Vigo, with us. Jeff Tyler gave you a great fight, but seems like the Lamborghini wins in the end.
Yeah, it was definitely close. It's kind of a shame though there at the start. Looks like somebody might have, tried to dive bomb or something like that, and I kind of was able to break the draft rather quickly. And then, throughout the race, I was noticing that me and Jeff were kind of just trading back and forth. I would gain a little bit on the straights in acceleration, like 0.2, 0.3, and then he would get back on the infield. So, and then, once the weather started to come down, since I was running a little bit less wing than probably he was, the car kind of was able to be quick and still, go quickly through the corners as well. But I heard he had some sort of trouble, so kind of a shame, because it was really looking to be a good battle there towards the end.
Where's tough at this new track in the GT3? Obviously, there are some bits that are basically flat out. The kink towards the Mercedes-Benz arena bit. But I imagine there's got to be some places that are still tough for the GT3.
I would say the braking zones, especially that, that first long straight, and then you brake real deep, and then it's like a right-hander kink. I think that's really where a lot of people kind of get into trouble there, especially in a pack, because usually someone will try to, send it in on the inside, and then they'll just understeer completely out and then just smash into the other car. So luckily, I didn't really see that today. So good driving from everybody in all the classes.
Yeah, and you would have got a good look at a couple of GT4 McLarens out there. Anything you notice about racing against them?
The car itself, to be honest, I'm not that big of a fan. It just kind of looks like a truck. I haven't personally tried it yet, but I feel some people kind of told me that it kind of was lacking a little bit on power and speed compared to the Porsche. I'm not sure if that's the case now since they got a BOP, but it looks like a McLaren one. So yeah, seems I'll have to give it a shot.
Does look like it rides a little higher than the Cayman does in GT4.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll definitely have to give it a shot.
Well, congratulations to you, our winner, putting Lamborghini on the top step while the other steps are completed by the other manufacturers. Anyone you got to thank or shout out, my man?
Shout out as always to my team, Geodesic, all our sponsors and partners who continue to support us throughout these years. And of course, I love doing these events that you guys put on. So, shout out to you guys for always putting them on, especially during our time zone, because usually that's kind of tough to find some fun races and things like that to do on the weekdays.
Hopefully we can move these back into week 13 as well if we get a bit more heads up about future cars and tracks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Miguel. And we can go to the GT4 winner. Devin, you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. How you doing there, Mark?
Doing well, man. Thanks.
2 races in a row now on HJBC, and you're at the front of both of them. How's it feel?
It's cool. I'm happy to be competitive. I was a little bit worried watching those Porsches run away on the fuel mileage, so I wasn't really sure if they were going to be able to pull off a single or not.
Yeah, we were debating that too, but it looks like your pit strategy paid off, and it doesn't seem like anyone had anything for you on pace by the end.
Yeah, I was trying really hard to chase that guy down because I really wasn't sure if he was going to stop again. And when he did, I was like, all right, let me try to get a fastest lap anyways.
Well, you certainly did that. So McLaren seems to be a strength for you as well. Any cars that you're not so good at?
Street stock, Jetta. Probably.
I'm hearing a bunch of lies here.
Yeah, you're supposed to tell the truth on the interview. Come on, man. No, but it was a pleasure to see you out there today. Anyone you need to shout out? Thank you for your race today.
Man, I had a blast fighting with those guys. Their names escape me right now. I'm kind of exhausted in those Porsches and chasing them down. Or I was trying to save fuel in the beginning, but when I realized they go freaking 20 laps farther than me anyways, I was like, well, let me just try to haul ass. But thanks to those guys, we had a good time. No contact. It was fun.
Well, thank you very much for coming out. That was a pleasure to watch, and certainly it was a masterclass at the end. A full lap ahead of the rest of the field. Well done, man.
Thanks, and thank you guys for putting all this stuff on. I know it's a lot of work, so keep it up.
Cheers.
Well, they're hanging around, so why not? It's Cameron Bidwell and Paul Gibson from PG13. How we doing, guys? Just off the podium today.
Just off, yep. We downloaded the track and a setup about a half an hour before qualifying, so we're very happy with how we did.
That makes you about 45 minutes more prepared than Aaron Thacker. And look at you, he retired after 10 laps, and you guys both got to have a bit of a scrap for a podium.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a great time. That was a lot of good races, and that was actually the first time that I ran GT3 and GT4 together. That was really cool.
What did you notice about that? Because the pace difference is sort of moderate-ish. You guys go about 8 seconds a lap faster, but certainly saw some places sometimes where, a GT3 couldn't always have it their way.
Yeah, it's the GT4 cars. I think I noticed it the most in like going into some of those slow corners, like the braking zones. The GT3 cars could brake a lot later than the GT4s could. And then through the center, then off the corner, the GT3s were quite a bit quicker too. So I think that's probably the majority of that 8 seconds or so.
Or 1 or 2 times where a GT3 at that far hairpin, the very tight, slow hairpin, would really outbrake a GT4 car, and then they'd end up doing the same speed at the apex. Did you notice that?
yeah. There we saw a couple log jams there right in the center of that slow hairpin. Yeah, that back hairpin back there, where they all just kind of slinkied and congested down into 2 or 3 cars and one spot on the apex. So yeah, we saw that a few times. Yeah.
What about your stints here, Cameron? Anything you noticed? Were you up to pace with your teammate?
I was actually surprised that we were as close as we were, to be honest. Because, like Paul said, I definitely did not come prepared at all tonight. So it was actually kind of nice to see that we could stick up at the front for a pretty good portion of the first stint. And I was just happy that we could keep the car clean and try to save some fuel. And just put our car as high up as we possibly could with how we were going to do in the first place.
Any feelings about Hockenheimring from you guys? I know for some people this was a must-have track that they didn't think iRacing was complete until they had, and for others it's more the case of, oh, Hockenheimring, okay, I'll give it a shot. What are your feelings?
So for me, I honestly didn't recognize the name of the track until I got into the session. I was like, oh man, this seems really familiar. So I've played it on other games in general. So it was actually a little reassuring that it wasn't going to be something that was going to take too long to learn. But in general, it's smooth. I like some of the off camera gives some decent challenge on some of these corners, and then they help you out with a lot more incline on other corners. So all in all, it was really challenging, but you can get a really wide variety of cars, I think, on this track, and they could all race really well together.
You, Paul.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for putting on. That was fun.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said thanks. Bye.
I said, what about you?
Oh, okay. What about me? Yeah, I kind of echoing the same feelings there as Cam. Like I knew of the track. I mean, I knew it from watching Formula One and stuff. So it seems to race really well for the GT cars. There's 1 or 2 spots that feel kind of awkward. Like that right-hander going into the stadium section there feels kind of odd, but it races well. And like Cam was saying, there's some variety there too. It doesn't all kind of feel the same, and it's got a couple longer straightaways and a couple slower corners, and so there's a good mix there that you could do a setup. So it seems like you could go for a lower drag setup and be a little quicker down the straightaways, and then a little bit higher downforce, and you might be able to kind of make up that same gap in the slower spots. So it's a pretty interesting mix. I enjoyed it. It's a good track.
Thoughts on track limits? Should we maybe have enforced that a little harder? What do you think?
Cam, how many did we finish with? Like 38 or so?
Yeah, so I think you guys are doing great on the track limits.
Yeah, if you put it at 40x, I'd be fine.
Yeah. There. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for racing, guys. Pleasure to have you, and hopefully you keep your ear to the ground, because I don't think this is the last HJ special event. Anyone for you guys to thank?
Yeah, I would just say out to everyone else in PG-13 racing, we have quite another core group of, an additional 10 or 11 drivers that race in various, smaller leagues with us. So if we do another one of these, we'll try to bring some more of those guys out here. So just thanks to them for kind of tuning in and supported us.
Yeah, thanks for you guys too for putting this on. Yep. This was we had the broadcast on when we weren't driving, and you guys have great quality here, and it was a really fun race to watch too.
Yep. Yeah, very much.
Sorry for subjecting you guys to all the nonsense we talk in a 2.5 hour race.
No, you should hear us during race on Discord. We just give each other crap all the time.
Fair enough. Cheers, guys. Catch you around.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah,
thanks.
There they go, Devon. And I think that's an interesting little race from Hockenheimring today. We sort of learnt some differences between the new McLaren GT4 versus its competitors in class, and then also this new track.
Absolutely. I'm just happy that Cameron didn't come after me for calling him Bladwell.
It's probably forgotten already. Hopefully, you should be thankful.
You're here.
Well, that's that. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thank you to all of our racers and competitors who slogged it out for fair endurance race of the Hockenheimring to break this circuit in for us. I've been David Haynes, Devin Peters with me, Michael Derby, enduring all of our nonsense all race long. What a saint. From us here at HJBC, I want to say thank you. Subscribe because there is more events coming. We also cover the Champ Car iRacing series. That's a pretty interesting one going all season long with coverage here on HJBC. So you'll want to catch that as well. But from the Hockenheimring, it's Auf Wiedersehen, bis später, see you around.